OTB AM with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent modes.
All right, bang at 7:30. You're very welcome along. It is OTB AM. Colm is here. Colm, good morning to you. How are you?
Ger, Shane, hello.
Shane is also here.
Good morning, lads. How are things?
We're just watching the cricket. That's why I'm not looking at you there. Sorry, watching the cricket. Ireland were doing great. I think we were like 79 for 1 or something. Particularly good early on, and then a late collapse where I think 5 wickets went in 17 balls, and we were all out for 158. And you're like, well, not great in T20. 158 for against England. We're playing England, and they're good. They're obviously our colonial overlords when it comes to all of these colonial sports, and so we would expect to take a whooping, but just taking a wicket in the first over, I think. So England are 1 run for 1 wicket. Stranger things have happened. Only once, and that was the full 1 day. So I don't know. Maybe.
Reading in the ears, lads. Could happen.
Yeah. We're watching.
Be the moment, like 2007 all over again.
It's a good achievement to have beaten the West Indies and Scotland at least.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd like to beat the English as well. I mean,
more
in
than
any sport,
more than anything.
So yeah, hopefully they can do it over the next little while. It was Phil Egan was full of optimism at one stage in the office, and then sport comes at you quickly, lads. 10-15 minute period where I just went to pot a little bit.
Yeah, it all unravelled. But look, I mean, it was 2007. It's a long time ago, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Pakistan. I remember it well. Yeah, and it's just out of the blue, and it's like, oh my God, it could be good at cricket here. This would be amazing. This is really stick it. It's really stick it to them. This would be incredible.
Another sport.
And here we are, 15 years on. Yeah. Could be happening again. That's what I'm thinking right now. I'm looking at the determination in the lads' faces here. You never know. This could age terribly.
What needs to happen for cricket to get a bit more mainstream?
Personalities.
Well, here's the thing, right? You talk to people involved in cricket, and they're like, well, we've done all this work. We've got development squads. Where our outreach programs are really good. We have an excellent facility now. It took a long time to kind of get that, but that is now bedded into. It's somewhere for them to go on an annual basis. England come over and send good players, and for crossover appeal, so that your mates are talking to you about it in the pub, which is really what I'm talking about here.
It takes characters. Like snooker had Ronnie O'Sullivan, or a rivalry. Formula One had rivalries over the years. Like sports that are maybe more on the periphery. Now maybe they have a bigger interest field in Ireland than cricket. But yeah, I think it needs. When do we hear from these cricketers? You never get the sit down interviews. You never get the.
Well, they're always available,
and they always have interesting stories. But we just don't. We don't really hear from them as often as maybe we should have. Maybe that there is an element of that on the media as well. That we could cover it a bit more strongly, but yeah, it's one of those sports that seems to be very, very strong within the pale, and then outside the pale tends to be less.
Yeah, well, there's two ways. There's 2 ways. In the media, in terms of eyeballs on it and earballs, it's like you do need big characters, like you said. You need a larger-than-life character who's doesn't necessarily actually talk about the rules of cricket so much in terms of what the feeling it gives you. Well, I suppose I'm thinking of a Freddie Flintoff type character, right? And then what you realistically need is a commentary viral moment or in-studio viral debate, which gets the masses going. So if you get something like kind of an outrageous argument that's happening on air, then suddenly people are starting watching what they're talking about. You probably need something like that in terms of eyeballs, in terms of playing.
That only ever happens about stuff that everybody feels strongly about one way or another. It happens about Gaelic football, and you can forget about Sean Cavan as a man, or puke football. But they're standout moments in over the course of a decade. We haven't had one of those in a long time in Gaelic football, really. And everybody knows the currency and the language of Gaelic football. People will have strong views on whether or not the game should be defensive, whether or not it's on specific rules. And on football, it happens every week on VAR, because everybody can look at it and go, well, I have an opinion on that. And there's no rule that actually confirms in my mind my bias is correct or incorrect.
Sometimes you need something juicy as well, like the England-Australia ball tampering stuff in, 2018 was juicy.
But for England, for an English and Australian audience, 100%.
Yeah, of course.
And they still remember that.
Maybe Ireland needs a cheating scandal. A cheat or to be cheated on. Either one.
Or a superstar coming through who breaks through the mould, who's really exciting to watch them play.
Who'll end up just being plucked by England, right? That's what'll happen.
Well, you probably need a collection of stars coming through, I would say. Big time, 100%.
You need someone to pull a Kevin Kilbane on and go, I'm not going to play for England. No, thanks.
And you probably need a Michael Sheen type Welsh rallying call of someone to to come on and talk about just how great the sport is and how interesting it is to watch in terms of media. In terms of accessibility then and people playing, it's like you need to make it front and centre in people's minds when they're growing up to play cricket, that it's actually a great sport to play in.
Yeah.
I remember playing it a good bit when I was in Australia, and it's some laugh, like, and you just wouldn't think about it here. Now there's a big following here, but it's just way more minor. There's also, speaking of Freddie Flintoff, he did a documentary over the summer. He went back to Preston to try and get cricket going again because it's completely fallen off the face of the earth in Preston. And when he was growing up, that his cricket club was kind of the centre of the communities where people gathered, and his skills were developed as a cricket player. He didn't come from a privileged background. He was just very talented and his skills were honed. Because nowadays, the participation rates have fallen right off in Northern England. And he's kind of made it his business to get it back going and get young people interested in the sport. But it's difficult because you just compare it to football. Football, it's just the easiest sport to take up because all you need is the ball. Or something that resembles a football. And that's it. Whereas cricket, there's gear to come to it. It's a complex game in comparison to football, and to try and keep young people's interest in it is a big thing. I think you have to grow up in it. So how do you combat that? You have to make it more interesting to the wider masses.
Yeah, and the shorter matches as well in cricket certainly appeal to the younger audience. People's attention spans don't have the capacity to, especially young people, not to put all young people in the same bracket, but you don't want to be following a game over days and days and days, and then there's weather delays and there's a cloud on the way even here in Melbourne today. But it needs to happen quickly, but not to dilute the sport for the purists either.
Yeah, but it being short, I don't know if it being short will actually solve it. It's like on sale in a shop when you're not looking for strawberries, but they're on sale. It's like, well, it's great that they're on sale, but I wasn't looking for it in the first place.
Yeah, you still buy them if they're nice.
Yeah, but if you just make a game...
tennis fans, you obviously buy the strawberries regardless.
If you just make a game short, that's not going to solve the interest level problem. It still has to be interesting.
They've got to manage those two things out, but they're actually different sports in a way. Like the one day stuff is completely different from and they attract different fans, and I think that actually it might work having multiple different products or variations of the product again on different platforms. We'll see. We're going to talk about that with Keith Wood a little bit later on. The outrageous notion of going to 12-a-side in rugby is something that Keith wants to talk about today. Is it that outrageous, really, if you think about all the problems that the game is suffering from a financial perspective, from a health perspective, from the games being 2 hours long perspective? What if it was 12-a-side? Okay, I know it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can actually send the angry text that you were about to send.
It's about to happen.
Hit send. Don't stop hitting send. But then, after you've hit send and you calm down a little bit and you're lying there spent with your great back. Actually, it's not that bad an idea.
Well, is the pitch the same size?
Yeah.
So then the Speedy Gonzalez's, the Jason Robinsons of this world are going to absolutely love this.
Well, won't it change the body shape of all the other big lads who are like crushing smaller human beings under their monstrous bulk?
Yeah, it's true.
Wouldn't that just initially you think, no, I couldn't, and then you're like, actually, you know what, maybe.
I assume Keith is against this idea.
I don't think he's advocating one way or another. I think it's a thought experiment. The balloon is being released. How long will it take for the helium to come out of the balloon? We don't know.
I feel like we're going through a period right now of...
Shoot it down if you want.
Yeah, every single sport trying to change itself and adapt to the modern audience. Every single major sport seems to be heading that direction now, where it's like, how do we keep up? How do we change?
We get Florentino Perez on to talk about cricket.
Yeah,
might have a few ideas.
Yeah,
100%.
No doubt. Or Todd Bailey as well.
And we're still waiting for him to release that information that young people are tuning out of games. That they are becoming too long. Speaking of Keith Wood's idea for 12-a-side rugby, that sounds outrageous, could work if you gave it a go. It's a bit like football too, I think 90 minutes is too long. Personally, I would shave
70 minutes. Oh no, he just dropped a handy one.
Jesus, that was right in his hands.
It was, yeah. Is that
coming at pace though?
There's stuff.
Yeah, it's slushing, is it?
Is it?
Or is that someone's drink gone awry?
There's a cloud on the way.
I wasn't sure if it was rain or it was bugs. That's the one thing they never tell you about. It's like Australia's full of bugs.
Is it a good day out, lads?
Poisonous animals.
Oh, it's amazing. Went in Australia. It's incredible. Beers,
right.
It's no, it's brilliant. It is fantastic. But you're kind of, I'd say, 40% watching what's going on.
Right.
Wicket. No, this is getting interesting.
Interesting.
England are collapsing. 14 for 2.
A few Irish
targets 158. And
wicket number 2, Eamon live comments. He's watching too.
Yeah,
great to see.
Morning, lads. Here's to beating England. Come on, lads, says Chris Cathal. Eamon says the eternal optimist in me thinks we have a chance here, lads. Win predictor gives us a 35% chance of winning. They're the first two comments, and then the rest of the comments after that are all like, cricket is ridiculous, what are you doing? And then giving out about Morgan joining England. Taking the soup is the phrase that's used by Patrick McHugh, which Have we not moved on? Like, what was he supposed to do? He's a professional, wants to play at the highest level, and then goes on to play at the very, very highest level. I say fair play. If the circumstances don't permit you to play for us at the very highest level, then you have to do that. Like, that's his job. It wasn't like it was a hobby that he was like, oh, I'm going to go and amateur represent England in the Olympics. It's like, no, this is my job. I need to make as much money as I possibly can out of it because that's my job to make money.
I bet Declan Rice wished there was that reaction to him, or that understanding. You know?
But Declan Rice wasn't going to make that much more money.
Oh, he would have. Oh my God, that's a massive reason.
It's not. It's not. Like
commercially.
Well, you say that, but where's your evidence for that? Did Roy Keane not make more money than anybody else at Manchester United?
Right,
yes, he did.
He's on his island himself.
The Roy Keane island. From Dublin as well, so there's a difference in the two lads as well. Well, Rice didn't grow up in Ireland, I guess.
Yeah, so he should get less abuse.
Yeah, you would think so.
Owen Whelan says, I was at Ireland West Indies in Nelson in 2015 when we won. It was great crack and it was a great day and some crack. Few beers and winning Irish team.
I think that's actually a good summary of the feeling towards cricket. It's great. Oh, it's brilliant when we win. Underdog tag and all that. Yeah. Have your day out and then resume your other interests.
John Claffey says, not if you had Messi bowling to Ronaldo would you make cricket interesting, which is not true. That's the whole thing. I'm going to go to one of the tests, one of the Ashes tests next year. That's on one of my
sporting bucket list.
No, I just got press cracked into it by my mates who are going. I was like, all right, they have nice picnics.
Right.
You pre-order your picnic.
So you're about the cheese and the wine as opposed to
imagine what will be in that picnic.
Cheese
I'm
and
already like, okay. That was all. They described what it was like. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go.
I already have to deal with this on a Friday. Listen to Adrian talk about cheese.
You can go over and back in the same day as well.
Right.
That's also
on the ferry.
Yeah, exactly, on the ferry.
Yeah.
With all the Man United and Liverpool fans.
Of course, yeah.
That's the worst trip.
The ferry to football.
The ferry to the match and the ferry on the way back.
I have some stories about that.
The 2.5-3 hour delay at one train station somewhere in Wales where you're not quite sure where you are and you're listening to the Liverpool fans singing and the Man United fans. Neville is a red, he hates Scousers. Gary Neville is a red, he hates Scousers. Phil Neville is a red, he hates Scousers. Non-stop, again and again and again and again. And then the Liverpool fans are just as bad and you're like, oh my God.
It's I remember going to a game when I was younger. It was Inter Milan, I think, in the Champions League, or AC Milan, and like we straight onto the bus from Old Trafford after the match, and you drive the grim nighttime drive at 10 and 11 o'clock at night to Holyhead, and then you get on the ferry and the water's choppy and you've had your few beers, and literally it's just you can feel it and hear it moshing around in your stomach, and you're trying your best not to get sick. And I remember having to get sick a couple of times overboard. Well, yeah, but people are trying to, because there are people in rooms and you're trying to lie asleep. I remember trying to lie asleep on the corridor with a couple of my mates, and it's just like, never again. I love getting the ferry over. It's good fun.
The slow ferry on the way back.
Yeah.
The early one.
It's pathetic.
They still have the fast ferry.
I don't actually know. But
lads, can you explain in GAA terms what in God's name is going on in the cricket, asks Tommy. These 14 for ones mean nothing to 99% of us. So we scored 158 runs with our innings. England have to beat that 158 runs. They've got 15 runs and they've lost 2 wickets. When you lose 10 wickets, you're out. So we need another 8 wickets to beat them. But that's a very simple explanation. So
that's one of the things that would put my mates off as well, is we'd be sitting in the pub and if the cricket came on and one of the lads was really into cricket and wanted to talk about it, and the rest of the lads were like, I don't get it. I don't understand the rules.
Well, that's willful ignorance, because it's not difficult.
Yeah, 100%. They try and make it as easy as possible.
We get to bat, they get to bat.
Yeah.
You got to protect your wicket. It's like, it's the same as rounders. Don't get struck out here.
Yeah. Once you find out this thing, once you learn the rules for the first time, the rest of it is simple. And it's given us a 40% chance on the winning predictor here as well. So it's kind of teasing you along. Still 60% for England, obviously, but I mean, you're telling me there's a chance.
There's a chance, yeah. What's the win predictor? Who said, what was it, 35 a little bit earlier? Should have gone up a bit.
It's now to 40.
All right.
It was a moment ago there, so.
If Owen Morgan played ice hockey for Canada, he'd be a national hero, but he played cricket for England, their national sport, so he isn't. We are a strange country sometimes, says David Bosang.
That's understandable though, isn't it? I mean,
we don't have a significant rivalry or a massive history with Canada, which I suppose we do with England. Maybe we should just get over a little bit of that. Like, ultimately, we've sent loads of people over to England. They've taken loads of Irish people and given them jobs in the past. I know it's a two-way street, I get it, but the vast majority of people had quite good experiences about that, and I think we're pretty grateful for the release valve. Certainly our politicians were very happy to send our young people over to England to get jobs and send money back.
Yeah.
That worm has turned, obviously, but that's an interesting. Michael McCarthy yesterday was tweeting about the fact that how the response is going to be from Irish people when the product list gets published for GAA Go, and what GAA Go is going to look like. On a price per game basis, you might end up paying more than you would have for Sky, or it might be quite similar. Or they'll come up with a package for the whole summer next year that'll be much cheaper. But it will be very interesting to see exactly what happens when GAA Go are your provider for the Saturday evening games.
Yeah, I mean, I understand how, for, like, say Carlow are playing Longford or whatever, and fans can't get to those games. I understand that they can provide that service and allow those fans to watch those matches. But I've used GAA Go. It's a good service. And look, people I think like to give out about Sky because it's English. I'm like, oh, why are we showing our national game?
It's actually American now.
Sorry, but
they and there was never really English, because before that it was Australian. But
yeah, we like to think of it as English in our heads for some reason. But yeah, there are gaps in that in the new broadcast deal announced. I know they've said there's a highlights show as well for during the week. I don't know what day of the week is that a midweek show?
The second one, they haven't announced it yet, the specific details, but
right.
I suppose they've listened to the cause there, because at a Sunday game was an incredibly frustrating watch.
Yeah.
I'd record it and watch it back on Monday, but I try my best to watch it live on the Sunday night ahead of Monday morning, because it's a great show to watch on paper. It's brilliant. Then it starts, and then you're like, Jesus, this is going on for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, how am I going to stay up and watch this? Like 11:30 finish on a Sunday night. Who's watching this? Like, who's able to stay up and watch this? Fair play to you if you can.
Yeah.
But then it's just, I always found, how can I put it? It was somehow both fast and slow. So they got through a rake of games, but the monotony of the pace of it. So they show the highlights, and if you watch the full game yourself and watch the highlights, it's taken out of context in the sense that, of course, highlights not going to give you a totally exhaustive idea of what's going on, but key plays and switch of momentum is missed in the package that they were showing.
Yeah.
And then I think that they had this obsession of making montages. So they'd show a montage after a game, and it would go back to Des, who would say, oh, and just to let us relive Dublin Kerry again, and they'd show a 3-minute montage that someone did up, which is fine, but then that breaks momentum. Then they go back to the studio, then they start analysing it, and then it's about 10 minutes on that general conversation, or we'll go to an ad back after this. Now that pace, like, I feel sorry for them trying to get everything in, but that is not good for the watcher.
And yeah, 100% agree. And people get parochial about their own county not getting shown enough, which I understand. But they also get parochial. I remember watching so many times watching Sunday game, and you'd have Conor McManus being called Kieran McManus, and everyone in Monaghan would be up in arms. Fintan Kelly would kick a point, and the commentator would say on the commentary, there's Drew Wiley with a lovely score for Monaghan, and everyone in Monaghan would be screaming at the telly going, that's not fucking but it's so common, and I'm sure other counties have those experiences as well, but that's a basic thing. That's just research, I guess.
Well, I don't know, look, I don't know if there's any other highlights package in the world of sport that is as problematic to be complimentary to all concerned in GAA. It's so difficult on a given weekend. There's so many games on.
I mean, like, really.
But Match of the Day, I thought nailed it. I thought they've nailed it.
So,
I really think.
There are loads of examples all around the world where there's loads of games on, and the highlights packages manages to actually capture the spirit of what happens in the game, as opposed to, sometimes a game will be completely one-sided. One team will score a great score, but it'll be their only score, and you'll see that score and you'll be like, oh, it's 10-1. But we've just seen 3 scores, and it looked like it was 2-1. I don't know. I just, I think, for me, the main thing is that there's now a lack of competition. I'm excited to see what BBC are going to do. I said yesterday in the show, big fan of their presenter, big fan of their attitude and approach to it. It better be on HD. Like, the games are now unwatchable. We've all become accustomed to top quality broadcast stuff. I really hope that BBC Northern Ireland have invested in the HD stuff, because when you're flicking over and you're like, oh Jesus, I have to go back much. But is there the HD stuff up the border? I feel like I have the BBC channels in HD. Yeah, but maybe BBC Northern Ireland.
I think so.
Yeah, no, you would. I would. Yeah, I would as well. Yeah. And they're showing both finals, like. Yeah. So
maybe that's
what I'd be doing. Yeah.
And we pick up
what I'm watching on Sky.
Right. Yeah. So we have the digital channels. We get the we get BBC on those as well.
All right, okay. Well, hopefully the Sky platform carries the BBC Northern Ireland. I do think that their pundits are like, they have tended to be people who are more heavily involved in the game still, either current players, current managers.
But Marty Clark's a brilliant commentator. He's one of the best out there, I think, in terms of Gaelic games. And those names, like the competition is a fantastic thing, but I don't know if it's been thought through properly. I hope BBC get proper games. I don't think there'll be a focus fully on Ulster football either. I think the nature of it now and the amount of games there's going to be, they're going to have to branch out, which isn't a bad thing. But there's going to be so many games to cover. It's the highlights that I'm nearly most worried about. Well,
the other thing that was kind of buried in the middle of it is enhanced digital. So live, you're going to get loads of stuff, or at least they will have the right to give us loads of stuff live. So maybe the experience is going to be completely different. Everybody's going to be watching on their phones anyway.
Yeah, and the lads, I heard Mick Foley talking with Joe the other night about it, and kind of talking about, if we could have the All Ireland finals on BBC General Station and Gary Lineker could present the thing.
Again, it seems to be unclear, but there was a suggestion that one of the finals will end up being on one of the BBC channels.
Right.
So you'd have to see on BBC Two and like Saturday, Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. I disagree a bit that you were saying that other sports can cover. They manage to cover all the highlights extensively. I see the problem with GA is that the footage, the quality of footage, it actually decreases as the show goes on, because in some games you literally have one camera person on the side of the field and it's not a good viewing experience because it looks very amateur.
Yeah.
So why would you dedicate 20 minutes of the show to a match like that where you're almost embarrassed by the quality of the footage, and that's no individual person's fault. Yeah. That's the facilities in the show. Like, so why would you shine a light on a match that looks like your buddies recorded it?
Yeah.
So I understand why they focus on the games at like HQ or whatever, and then they breeze over the rest. But if you're like Sunday game from like January to April now, it's impossible to get it completely right. I have sympathy, but what I think they could massively improve on is the pace of it. They could definitely focus on other things that they are. The montages need to go. They need to show more of the match and less of the talking, like an old Brian Clough saying, but it's true, in order to get everything done. Because you feel very unfulfilled watching it, and it feels like a waste of time. I should be in bed instead of watching this, and that's problematic.
Presumably the highlights will go up as soon as the game is over on YouTube, like they do in every other world sport. Like, as soon as the game is over on Sky, you can watch Premier League highlights in 3 minutes.
And I thought that would kill Match of the Day, and it didn't. No, because Match of the Day gives you something else.
Yeah, the punditry.
Well, so Match of the Day gives you the conversations.
Yes.
So you still want the conversations?
Yeah, but Match of the Day have extended highlights. Sky Sports show you 3 minutes of the actual key footage, which is what the Sunday game is doing now, but they have no Match of the Day alternative, so that's all you're left with. So you're unfulfilled.
All right.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Still to come, Keith Wood. We're going to speak with Christina Desmond in just a second. Keith Wood at 8:10, talking rugby, sports pages at 8:30. Tommy Rooney is going to pick the All-Stars, who he wants and who he thinks at 8:50. Denise O'Sullivan, Ireland superstar, live and in glorious Technicolor all the way from North Carolina. And then some Stuart Lancaster goodness. He was in studio with Joe last night in a very interesting, wide-ranging interview about how the process actually came together for him to be the new Racing manager. Now, I will just do some quick comments on this. Loads of thought coming in. Everybody thinks about TV coverage. It's one of those things that you start talking about, everybody has an opinion on. It's kind of like the whole point I was making about the cricket. People don't have an opinion on it because they haven't seen enough of it. Yeah. Conor Joyce says RT will definitely just bring back the committee room or something like that with Marty Morrissey for half an hour on a Wednesday at 8 p.m. They definitely won't.
No,
that's not going to happen.
Another wicket for Ireland. Let's keep it going, lads. 29 for 3. Wow.
The Sunday game analysis was fluffy at best and had a lot brushed over. I've been to games and then seen it analysed in a totally different way, missing out some important moments, says Powell 74. I think that's because, you need to have people who are at the game talking about what they saw, or somebody who's focused on that game, and then they come in and they say it, and then you can broaden the conversation out generally. But
how would you do that over 2 hours? Well, 20 odd games.
Because they have endless resources. Like Brink's truck gets backed up to RT every year, and the money from the country pours into it. You don't have to. You move them in and out. You're a producer. You can think this through.
I know the resources of getting 40 people to come into. Can you imagine Jojo setting them up?
Don't need 40 people. Why do you need 40?
Enough. If you're showing 20 games, you need 2 analysts.
But they don't have 20 games. There aren't 20 games, and they don't focus on 20 games, and that's not what they're doing. So that's a straw man. and it would be pretty easy to start thinking about these problems in it. Like, okay, we're going to block this down. Here's the hurling. We want people who are at the games. You come back and you do that bit, and then if there's going to be a general conversation afterwards about the trends in the game, fine. But maybe you don't even need that.
Is there an element of broadcasters being afraid to invest in the GA? Like, we know from off the ball ourselves, like the numbers wise on, say, YouTube or podcasts and stuff, generally speaking, rugby is sky high all the time, no matter what time of year. Soccer is probably next, and GA is probably distance off it. Like, I wonder, like, RT and these other broadcasters, they're probably fully aware of that fact. So is there an element of, in terms of cameras at grounds and properly pumping money into coverage, that they're afraid to nearly do that, and because the return isn't there financially, because the interest maybe isn't as wide ranging as other sports? I
think there's two generations trying to cover it. So you have the older generation want to talk about the game, which is great, and then you have the younger generation who are frustrated by the product. And those they're going to constantly clash.
We've got to move on. OTB AM brought to you live with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent mow. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. I'm delighted to say we're joined on the line by Cork's own Christina Desmond, fresh from her silver medal win at the European Boxing Championships in Montenegro. Christina, how are you? Good morning.
Great, how are you?
Good. We've got you just on your way to work, I think.
No, I am going to work in about an hour or two, but I finished this morning at about 4 o'clock, so I'm fairly tired now. I've only a few hours sleep in me, but I'll be fine.
Well, listen, thanks very much for getting up to do this for us. You're a guard, so there was no rest for the wicked, straight back into it.
I got called onto the team last minute, so I didn't really want to be messing around with anyone else's annual leave. So once I got it, I just took the bare minimum. Didn't expect to be coming home with a medal. So I couldn't really be saying I didn't want to come in then after winning a medal. So I was actually nearly happy just to go back in and do it, because I've taken enough leave. So but no, there was a great buzz going back. So it wasn't too bad.
Well, let's pull back to the start of that conversation there, that bit where you were like, got called up pretty late. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what was the story with the late call up, and how did you find out?
Yeah, so I actually have been on the high performance team since I was 16 or 17 off and on, but I went away and got a degree and came back, and then I went for the guards and I got the guards, and so I've been just off and on the team with a long while, and so last May I didn't get picked for the World Championships, so I went back to work full time, and I wasn't doing as much training as I should have been, or I wasn't going to Dublin training, and they were on to me all summer to come back to train and to keep competitive and all that, and I wasn't really in the mind frame, really, to be honest. My father was sick, and we had a lot to do between work and trying to travel home to him. So middle of September I got a call, would I be interested in coming on the team, as there was a space after coming up. The girl at my weight, Lisa O'Rourke, was after getting injured, so they asked me was I fit, and I was, after being training, and I had my own fight, a club fight in England, so I wasn't too bad. So I was working night shift about 9 o'clock, and they called me, and I was in 2 days later, after finishing 7 o'clock in the morning. I went up and sparred at 3 or 4 o'clock, and I got told, right, you're coming on the team if you can come. So there was a quick couple of days there where I just didn't have much time to think, only get my gear ready and get a bit of time off and go. So it was all over the place, but it was an opportunity, in my opinion, so I just grabbed it and went.
That's mad. Like, when you think about it, you go to European Championships and come home with a medal without what you would say is textbook preparation, and yet maybe you were ready for this, and maybe you didn't need to have the pressure or whatever it was. Maybe there was a freedom involved in, like, okay, well, here's a really big opportunity for me, I'm just going to go and grab it.
I actually think that's what it was. There was a lot of heartbreak during the year. I felt I was hard done by in a lot of things, but I kind of, there was part of me like, should I do it? Why should I do it? I couldn't make an awful fool of myself going out there. It's boxing. You can't just get in the ring and I'm not disrespectful to it. You have to be ready to get in the ring. You're on your own in there, and I'm against elite athletes. They're all training full time. They're all funded. My teammates, most of them are funded as well, funded good money, and you're getting in the ring with world champions, European champions, Olympic champions, and you don't know who you're going to draw. So there was part of me very nervous, but there was part of me as well, like, why not? I wanted to get back into it. I missed it. It's hard to train when you don't have something to train for. So I just took it by the straight away, and I just went for it. But I actually felt great. I felt strong. I actually have never felt as strong in my life, or as fit. I just put the head down and trained hard, and I got far more than what I expected.
It's funny, Tina, because I remember you talking about your disappointment at not getting to Tokyo, and I think your words at that point in time where everything happens for a reason, but clearly it's come around the other way now, and this has happened for a reason. Yeah,
I do believe there's and I was training hard for the Olympics, and I was trying to still juggle the job and training at the time, as I had only just started. But for me, I needed to get a career. I'm very independent and headstrong, so I had to get a career, and I got it. And now it's all kind of falling into place. So I'm happy that I did that. Sport is such a up and down. There's so many things can happen. No one really understands how hard it is at elite level. Even my own family don't understand. We were actually all laughing last week. If our families and friends knew what we go through in competition, they'd be checking us in somewhere, I'd say, because it's absolutely crazy. The mind games and what the mind can do. But it's look, everything does happen for a reason. I fully believe that, and something happened last week, and I not after taking it all in yet, but I'm very happy.
Can you go back to that bit where you were involved in the elite camps and training, kind of basically since you were a late teenager? When did you make the decision that you did want to go off and also have a twin track career? Because so many athletes decide that you want to be entirely an athlete and you've got to give everything to it, and actually the rest of the world can wait. But frequently we find that in retrospect people get their best results when they have the security and also the outside interest of something else. In your case it was your degree, and now subsequently it's like a really hard, grueling, important day job as a guard. I definitely feel like there's a lesson there to be learned for a lot of people, like not just to be one thing and put all your eggs in the basket of being an athlete, while at the same time not paying attention to the rest of your person and your individual.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we would always be driven to do our best by our parents, so my parents at home, so I kind of had to, I wanted to. And to be fair, my father wanted me to do the full-time role after a while. He's seen the potential in me, and he asked me, the guards will be there in time, the degree will be there in time, just you can do the training and I'll back you 100%. He was willing to do that, but I just wanted, I don't want to be down the line after a fight going the wrong way, and I have to retire with no money, no backing, no savings, so that's all what I was thinking. When I was 21, I thought I was nearing retirement age. I needed to get my life on the road, and I needed to get going, so that was what the pressure was for me. And full-time athlete is very, very hard, and there's a lot to it. People think it's just simple training, but I actually can't stay still. I have to be doing something all the time, and I give out that I'm too busy, but I enjoy it. I absolutely love doing what I do, and I love showing other young boys and girls, especially girls, that you can do what you like, and you can do a man's job. In my opinion, the guards is a man's job, and in my opinion, boxing is a man's sport. So I'm a bit like that. As I said, independent. I need to be different. So that's probably the driving factor.
Those driving factors, Tina, as well. Like when you're living out of a bag between, I guess, Waterford and Cork, and then the High Performance Centre in Dublin over the years, and then you come back in, say, to Dublin Airport, a few days ago, and then you're down at national schools and handing your medal around to young kids. That must make all those moments of toil and sweat and torture worth it.
Yeah, it really is. For me, it was my family in the airport. They came up from Cork for me, so my partner was supposed to collect me, Jetty. He was coming up, and I told him to stay at home because I didn't want to come in from Cork, but when I seen him, it was all worth it, so it was.
When you were younger, was boxing always? I know you would have probably played other sports as well in Gaelic football, and you have a twin brother who plays Gaelic as well. Was it his influence? Did you kind of tag along with your twin to boxing when you were younger, or how did it all begin?
That's how it started. Michael, my twin, we're best friends, so we're whatever he did, I had to do, and I had to do it better. So that was it. He started for fitness for the GA, and I followed, and I begged and begged. I said, please, can I box? And it was my father's first cousin, John Desmond. He was like, not a chance, no women boxing, that's it, you're not to boxing. And eventually I got in, the first year I boxed, I won an Irish title, and it just went from there. I feel like that was only yesterday, to be honest with you, because it's flown since. That was, 12 years ago or so. And I've been on the Irish team since I was 16. So he gave up boxing then for football, and I gave up Gaelic football for boxing. I played for Cork underage for a few years and that. And my own club coach, Tom Power, just kind of said, it's two different fitnesses. You have to kind of take on board, what are you going to do? Are you going to box for Ireland? Are you going to play football for Cork? And Cork ladies football was going so well at the time. I was like, I can do both. And he was like, Tina, no, like the injuries are too much. I was getting bad injuries from the football, so I just took on the boxing. And I went back to football now and then, and went back to Niam and got a few chances at Cork again. But no, I had to take a full-time role in the boxing, and you know what, it has paid off. But he was right. It was worth taking it on. But I've joined the club since. I joined the club over COVID, the Ricky Rangers here in just outside Dungarvan, just for the fun of it. And I absolutely love that, because it's a bit of a break from the boxing, and it's a social aspect of it. Sometimes in the elite level you don't really have as much fun, or it's not as laxy-daisy or easy going, but you have to have the fun side as well, really.
100%. You're from the Gaeltacht, is that right?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. Killamartyra and Musgrave Gaeltacht, so it is. Right,
well, I mean, TG Car have obviously massively ramped up their coverage of boxing. I'm sure they're always looking for Gaelgoers who can do a bit of boxing analysis, so there's a career in the media for you as a sideline, as a side hustle whenever you're finished. What's next? Like, does this change your plans for the future now that this whole thing has happened over the last couple of months?
I haven't a clue, to be honest. I got out of the ring on Saturday, and we went for food, and Kelly Harrington was my roommate. We spent about 2 hours trying to pack our bags, and we had a quick hour's sleep before we got on the bus to come home. We had a long day travel Sunday, and I've been working since. So I've been asked that a few times, and to be honest, I've no idea. We've national championships in January. I have to drop weight to get into Olympic weight now. They're after changing the Olympic weights to 66 or 75, and I'm too small in height for the 75, so I'll have to try and drop weight, and I'll just see. I have no idea. It's wide open at the moment. For now, I'm back to work, back to reality. I got about 5 minutes praise, and it was back to the slagging and the mocking, and that's the way I like it. I don't really like to be made a big deal of. I believe I'm normal and doing normal things, so for now, I'll see. But yeah, I will probably have to keep it going, I suppose. I can't really give it up now.
I suppose a lot of people were delighted for you, Tina, as well. Like, I was reading up from your exploits in Sofia in 2016 at the Europeans, where you picked up a bronze, but you really weren't happy with the bronze medal, given the nature of the semi-final defeat. Like, I know you called it, I think, contentious at the time. You were quite clearly the better fighter, according to a lot of the pundits who watched the fight. So I know that must have been a frustrating thing for you at the time, and probably. Did it lead to you being exasperated with boxing for months after that, or was it just something you accepted and told yourself, look, at least I have a European medal?
Yeah, look, these things happen. It happens in every sport, and boxing does have a bit of it. It's after getting better somewhat, but yeah, it probably did. I can't really remember what I felt like I did after the fight, but you just get back into training, you shake it off. We're both in there at the end of the day, and some people can see different things, so I won't hold it against anyone. I will take any bronze medal or silver medal or gold medal you're going to, that I can. So I won't say no to it at all. I'm not ashamed of it anyway.
You mentioned the fact, Tina, that you did your degree, of course, before you went to Templemore. And I know your mum passed away when you were in leaving cert year as well, and you're trying to balance that between thinking about Youth Olympics and CAO choices and all the stresses that year as well. So do you think back to that time as something that, almost a pat on the back that you were able to get through those difficult times? Because I'm sure she'd be very proud of you after what you're after achieving in the last week or two.
Yeah, to be honest, we just had to put our head down as a family. We drove on, and I didn't even know I I went to Thurles. I did strength conditioning in Thurles and in St Anne's College, and I actually just didn't even know I had that course on my CEO. My sister must have put it on. My older sister Louise, she must have put that on it, because I hadn't a clue, and I was in the Youth Olympics when I got the choice and all. But we didn't really have a choice. Our dad was very good. Chris Dorr, he's excellent, and he's been a great driving force for us all. We're all qualified. Well, Rachel nearly qualified. She's doing business in Limerick, so he always was that kind of way, and he'd always help us at whatever we'd be doing. So I don't remember it being that hard. It was just normal for us. We just went on with it, and we have a great background, great family, great friends, great neighbours. So yeah, she surely is proud. Hopefully, I'm a bit different, all right. That's all. If you can say anything, she raised a different girl, a very, very different girl.
Any parent will be proud of that. It's an incredible achievement. You said you're just a normal person doing normal things. It's not quite normal going to European Championships without like a year's preparation and coming home with silver. It's a really remarkable story. Congratulations, and thanks a million for joining us. We'll let you get a bit of sleep before you get back on the afternoon shift. Thanks a million.
Could I just thank my work colleagues?
Of course, yeah.
They've all been working for me over the past couple of weeks, and they've not been able to take days off here and there. So I'd like to thank them all at all ranks. Their support has been incredible, and thanks to everyone. I can't believe the support. My little parish has been massive in surrounding areas, and it's been huge to see support come in from all over the world. And thank you all.
You said your colleagues were backslagging you. That's because they're very proud of you as well. I've no doubt that they were more than happy to put their shoulder to the wheel, because it's a great reflection on them and on your community and on where you come from as well. These things, you pick up the medal, but you do represent everybody as well, and you've done it so brilliantly, Tina. Thanks a million for joining us.
No problem. Thanks a million.
It's Christina Desmond there, silver medalist at the European Championships in Montenegro and part of the boxing team. We wish her all the very best. It's 11 minutes past 8 this morning. We're brought to you with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. Just to let you know, it's on in the cricket. Ireland are beating England at the moment. The run rate that England need to achieve to win against Ireland, they're not currently achieving it. Now, that's not to say that somebody's not going to come to the crease and hit a bunch of sixes over the next while, but lots of moody shots of the England selectors and the England captain and the England players, and that's what you want to see. England are 50 for 3. Their target is 158, but the run rate at the moment is 6, and it needs to be 9 point something. So things are looking pretty good for Ireland at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of pensive looking English heads, pensive Irish heads as well, but there's a little bit more.
They're in it. They're in it. We didn't think at 158 it was going to be too hard for England to get there, but at the moment it looks like they're struggling. So what more can you ask? Right. During the ad break, you're going to hear from Kathleen McNamee, Emma Byrne and Karen Duggan on the latest episode of the Koi Gig Pod, reacting to Ireland's World Cup group draw. The Koi Gig Pod on OTB Sports is in association with Cadbury FC, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. We're back after this with Keith Wood.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
OTB Sports Rugby.
Hit Connacht last season, going to hit them again this season. They are in the tougher section. Munster could conceivably finish 8th, but miss out on Champions Cup. I think it is progressively getting more and more difficult to qualify for Champions Cup. You certainly can't take it as read, and you certainly can't take it as read when you make a start like Munster.
Subscribe to the Rugby Stream on the OTB Sports app now.
I'm much happier with coming up against the likes of Australia, Canada, who are that kind of physical team who we've faced in the likes of Sweden and Finland in recent times. So we're used to that kind of team. If we'd gotten more technical teams like your Spains and Japan, that's a whole new task that we haven't really faced, and we haven't had to be challenged by with this team yet. So like Emma said, I don't mind playing those two teams. Nigeria is a bit of an unknown. They're very physically strong.
Yeah, no, because I was asked about this morning on Off the Ball, where they were asked about Nigeria, and they were like, oh, well, they're ranked, I think it's like 45th or something in the world. Surely that means they're incredibly beatable to us. And I was like, no, like, fair enough. Qualifying for a World Cup out of Europe is extremely difficult, but also Nigeria have been to World Cups before. They've had that whole experience. They have like the AFCON experience of that, major continental tournament, which we don't have.
And they've been successful at it as well.
Yeah, like this year was only the third time ever that they haven't won it, I think. So like there's plenty of reasons. And I think only 1 or 2 of the current squad actually play in Nigeria. Most of them play in Europe as well.
Yeah,
so
and they don't meet up. Like, I know that a few of them don't even go back for internationals. They just join up for the big tournaments. So I wouldn't even be looking into that at all. Like, they're dangerous. They've dangerous players. But, you know, I've watched them and they've gotten better at every tournament as well, which is quite worrying. They've just improved. Every tournament I've watched them, they've improved. So
OTB AM with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent modes.
Right, time for us to turn our attention to rugby. I'm delighted to welcome Keith Wood back to the show. Keith, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, Ger. I'm great, thank you. Very good.
We've been having a few offline chats about the strength of the game, the rude health or otherwise of rugby generally at the moment, and particularly in light of what's going on with the English clubs going to the wall, and then the constant noise about player health and player welfare. There's the historic stuff of the players who are now suing the organisations, but there's also the week in, week out toll that the game is taking at the moment on its current players in terms of serious injuries and concussions, etc. And so we're going to have a little ramble through those topics and some of the laws and the speed at which the length of time that it's taken for the games to get through. So I don't know, I talked a little bit earlier on about the kite being flown of maybe having a conversation starter about the game going to 12-a-side, and that this was something that we should at least tease out and have a conversation about. So maybe that's a good place to start.
Yeah, it was funny. It's an existential sort of conversation, and yet I think we can have a little bit of fun with it, if that makes sense as well. I mean, I don't know that we need to be too serious on it, but it's trying to have a look that if there was an alternate universe almost, and you were having the game, what would the game look like? And I kept kind of picking holes in the things that I worried about. I think that's where a lot of the conversation came from, which, you know, we've been kind of nattering on this for a while, but some of the laws of the game are hard for fans to view, or there's enough grey in it that it makes it very difficult, and everybody gets kind of angry or energised with it. Some of the finances of the game seem to be accelerating towards an end, which isn't great. And some of the injuries make it incredibly hard to watch. So if you can't have a game that has 3 or 4 concussions every time, like that just can't be allowed to go on. So it's how then do you kind of reimagine the game? I think that's kind of a way of looking at it. And like that 12-a-side, I mean, I spoke to a couple of guys that would be much closer to the professional game, and they were looking at it and saying, look, 12-a-side could be something that would work. And I remember when I first heard that idea of that 12-a-side competition, it was last year, the year before, I really disliked it because it was another format, another way of playing the game. But if it was the only way of playing the game, if it was instead of 15s, what sort of an impact would that have on the game? Well, the players would end up being fitter because they'd have to be, because there's more ground to cover. You probably lose 2 wing forwards, so the scrums may take a little bit less time to set. The lineups would be far less complicated. You'd only have 5 in the lineout. You'd probably lose a centre. And so defensively, I don't know that you could necessarily have that rugby league type of defence, because I think you have to cover more players in the field, so it might go back to a more side-on defence and definitely far less 2-man tackles, which is one of the issues that we have. So I think there's merit in it. I think there's merit in having a conversation on that.
It also has a knock-on impact in terms of the size of playing squads gets smaller, and so therefore slightly more affordable.
Yeah, I mean, look, all these things would have a knock-on. I mean, like, we talk a little bit about the game in England, and people would wonder, why are we talking about it? Well, whatever happens over there has an impact over here, because it has an impact in terms of the European competition, but also in terms of viability of the sport in general. So they do have an impact. And as it stands at the moment, so much of the game in everywhere actually is unsustainable. So you can see it with South Africa playing New Zealand in England before the World Cup. That's an income generator. I mean, yes, it's a good match for them to play as prep, but it is a income generator, because all the teams are, not all of them, but the vast majority have a shortfall in cash. So it's gone to this place of being relatively financially unstable. And is it I was trying to figure out what CVC's plan of this was, because they've been very quiet over the last period of time, but they've invested huge money into the game. They invest the money into the game because they obviously have a vision that they can make a lot of money out of the game. And how is that happening if all the teams are losing money? Well, that doesn't seem to kind of ring true. So it almost looks as if you're waiting for a few teams to fall by the wayside, and you're then left with a system that can generate enough of funds to break even at worst, and then maybe try and make money as well. So, I mean, the long-term view of the game is that would happen, but I think it makes it very hard when so many teams, actually some of the teams are going out of business almost.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the start of COVID, we did a series called State of the Union, where we spoke to people from all around the world, all different backgrounds, about what we thought might happen. But at that stage it was like, this game is kind of struggling a little bit on a couple of different fronts, and what's happened is that the tide went out and you get to see who's swimming naked, in that famous David McWilliams analogy, and it turned out like the Premiership, which was supposed to be this global powerhouse that was going to take over the game and all the best players were going to come and play there, it's not sustainable at the moment. And that's why conversations like 12-a-side, which in the past would have been, no, that's a joke, we can't even, what's the point in talking about that? Now all of a sudden you have to start thinking about how this game is going to be sustainable, if it's going to be sustainable.
Yeah, look, there's three things for it to be sustainable. We have to reduce the amount of injuries. That can't be the case. We have to put a bit more space in the field, because it needs to be more exciting, and if everything is incredibly tight and packed with players, that's where a lot of the additional collisions are going to come from. We have to make the laws a little bit easier, and there has to be some bit of viability in it. I mean, I had a quick look just at some of the prices of tickets. The best priced ticket in Harlequins for the next game against Gloucester is £70. That's €80. That's an expensive ticket. The most expensive ticket in Thomond Park, I think, is €45. So it's a lot more value over here, but it's scarcity value in Harlequins. It's packed all the time at the moment, so it can be viable. Whether people are willing to pay that amount of money for it all the time makes it another issue.
Why now, Keith? Do you think, I guess, the Wasps and Worcester situations bring it into the forefront a little bit more? But like we've seen it in cricket, for example, with the 100 series, and sports are always trying to find ways of coming up with new ideas and get new fans on board and keep the current fans they have. So is now a turning point? Are we at a sliding doors moment for rugby where it needs to be now to kind of make some changes?
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm looking for changes to try and cover a whole variety of different things. That's where I'd be looking. So the idea of reducing injuries, and especially concussions, but injuries in general. We look at all the teams at the present moment in time: England, Ireland, Munster, Leinster, Ulster, Connacht. The injury amounts that are there on large squads of 50 people with maybe 25 or 30% injured. That's a very tough place to be. But I'm not looking for another. It's not me looking for it, but I don't think the game needs to have another format, but it may need to change its existing format somewhat, because it has to be more sustainable. And having another one means more matches, more things. That's not what's needed, and that's actually where we've almost looked like we were going, which was, let's bring in a 12s as an add-on to the existing 7s and 15s. I don't agree with that as it stands, but I want to be able to watch a game at the weekend and have it to be incredibly intense and fantastic and fun, and you'd still want to make certain that all the players walk off at the end of it. And that's not happening at the moment. So that kind of, for me, that's one of the main leading signs to some level of change.
Just a quick update in the cricket. There were two successive balls where an English player humped it up in the air and an Irish player dropped it. And it was like, oh my God, head in your hands territory. And then the next ball after that, Harry Brook humped it up in the air, and this time it wasn't dropped. This time Ireland have caught it. So England are 67 for 4. They're chasing a target of 158, and the win percentage of Ireland has, I think, tipped over 50% for the first time. So it's looking good for Ireland against England in the T20 at the moment. Look, cricket is a bit of a mess, actually. It's not a bad analogy, where there are some fans of this sport, there are some fans of the one-day 50 over, and then there are some fans of the test sport, and nobody's quite sure what they're looking at when they're looking at it. So rugby can look at other sports and go, we just need to get this right, because it's very quickly easy for us to slip off the radar of TV companies, audiences, parents who want their kids to feel safe, and parents who want to feel safe watching their kids play the sport too. Like, it's a complicated ecosystem that rugby is operating in at the moment.
It is, but when you look at the existing forms, 15s, which is traditional, and look, I'm a huge fan of 15s, and 7s, which is far easier to play. It's very exciting, but doesn't have the full reach of the other one. But it's a much easier game to play. I think it's the best entry into 15s is from 7s, and that's for people who don't play. It's something that is hard, physical, but there's an awful lot of space. Like, when I look at cricket, I used to watch cricket when I was younger, but when it went off TV, onto satellite TV, it lost a huge amount of supporters. And when you have a global element and the subcontinent element in terms of cricket, that is a huge driver, and that's been a colossal driver for the T20, for something that's infinitely more exciting, and that is the market that under which it's based on. We look at where Rugby 15s is based on. It's how can we make that a little bit safer, more financially viable? Is there a change that could be made there, or is that something that could be the death knell for us? So we don't know. It's like I said it at the start. It's why not throw out these ideas? Why not have a sense of curiosity as to, instead of just presuming that this is perfect and we can't move away from it. Now, you could say we'd be making it more into rugby league, but I don't think it would have to necessarily be. And if the scrum continues to be as important as we all believe it should be in the game, well, then it won't ever get towards rugby league. And the lineouts are another very large mark of difference. But you can't make the pitches bigger. You're not going to change any of the stadia. So is there anything pragmatic about reducing the numbers down somewhat?
Yeah, definitely worth doing the research on it and seeing if that is something that has a significant knock-on impact on the number of concussions. Instinctively you would say, yeah, let's get some data behind that and trial it. Definitely worth as a thought experiment. The other issue in all this, of course, is how watchable the game is in its current mode. Some teams eminently watchable, where the ball's in play the whole time. There was a brilliant URC game where two teams who were intent on trying to scored a couple of weeks ago when Leinster played at the RDS. And then sometimes you watch international rugby, like the Lions South Africa games, where it's 2 hours and it feels like it's about 5 hours. This is also a significant, I would say, barrier to entry for new fans coming in. It's like, well, why did the referee make that decision when there were 15 other things going on at the same time that he could have made a decision on? Is the simplification of the laws something that's worth discussing?
Well, I do think so. I think there should be the laws have to be made easier for fans to understand, but they also have to be easier for the ref to ref. It's like we see difficulties all the time and conversations going around the referees all the time, and there were a few outliers to elements of that, but the way it was, and it sounds like an old man thing to say, so I qualify for that, but the idea of respecting the referee, well, that's been eroded an awful lot because there's an awful lot of people shouting at the referee. And I think if you suddenly tidied that part up, that would make it infinitely easier. So you don't have guys looking for decisions. The only person who should talk to the referee is the captain, and the captain should treat each other with respect. And that has just been eroded ever so slightly now. But I would speed up everything. 30 seconds. I know they've started looking at these, but 30 seconds for scrums, lineouts, kicks. That's about the full extent of time that you have there with it. Like some of the laws have been changed for safety reasons. They have made the game I don't know whether they've made it safer, but they've definitely got rid of an awful lot of guys being tipped in the air. There's a lot of high headshots are being so seriously penalised now that it is going to have an impact over a period of time. But the players, that takes time. And all these things take a little bit of time. So I do think the game is changing. I do think some of the things they've done are exactly what was needed. And I just wonder whether more is needed at this stage, because I keep looking at every single squad that comes out at the present moment in time. The injury list seems to be getting longer and longer and longer. The level of complication, they keep talking about comparatives with soccer. Soccer is unbelievably simple to play and to watch and to understand whether it's a free or it's offside or not. It's pretty easy. Rugby is not easy.
Would you expect, Keith, any pushback whatsoever from, say, the rugby purist to any changes to the natural game and the game as we know it, or is it a case of people just get used to change over time and it would become accepted slowly but surely?
Yeah, well, I don't know, and again, we're spitballing here, so we're trying to figure out what do we think could make the game better. I think it brings it back in many ways to the purist, because you might bring it back to a proper clean strike in the scrum, and that seems to annoy everybody that the ball doesn't go in fully straight. But I think it brings it back to more space. And the purist, the days in the past didn't mean that the game was better, but it meant there was more space and you could see more almost individual skill at different times. But I think, Ger, you mentioned it a while ago, some of the games that we've watched over the last few weeks have been absolutely phenomenal. But we're in the second month of the season, and now we're looking at huge injury lists all over the place. So are we going to see those level of games all the time? What if there was a little bit more space? Yeah. So I don't know whether the purists would be upset by that, actually.
Yeah, I think that if a proper piece of work is done before any changes happen, then you should be able to get buy-in from most stakeholders, particularly if you're making the case that this sport is unsustainable as it currently stands. And let's wait and see what the payouts are or what settlements are reached with the former players who have suffered, and then you have to build that into your future plans. And are we making enough money to pay that into the future, or are we actually deciding that we're not going to pay that into the future because we're going to make the sport safer? You're not going to eliminate all risk, and you're not going to prevent people from saying, I need more money for what happened to me during my time. That's always going to be part of all major contact sports. But if you at least take all the steps you possibly can to limit your exposure, then that makes sense too. So, all right. Was there anything else on that bit? That we've talked about the laws, the financial situation. I mean, something else has to happen in the meantime before any major change to the game going to 12-a-side, because the precariousness of the English clubs is very interesting to watch. The knock-on impact that's going to have on the rest of the game.
Well, it is, and it depends on how many more are under pressure. I mean, when you look through some of their accounts, they have lost a lot of money over the last few years. How sustainable those elements are. There was one of the newspapers had a comment that one of the Wasp players who'd been on 400,000 was now being offered a contract that was only 60,000, and then they were saying that this was derisory. Well, that's an interesting line coming from a company that supposedly is 112 million in debt. You have to have a look and see what is the viability at the end. I think whoever offered him that money, I think they may have been guessing that they can get a really good player at that level, but their salary cap is already spent. So the responsibility is for them to make certain that they can balance their books at the end of the year. And so a lot of the balancing of the books that's happened in England has been, and a little bit in Ireland too, by the way, has been from sugar daddies in the UK coming in, or in some of the Irish systems where they look for people to make donations in to try and bolster up the finances to cover different things and to be able to bring other players in. That's very hard to be sustainable when it's not reliant on how much money you're making on income. And if your income doesn't cover all your expenditures, that's not really a good business. So as a business, it makes it very, very difficult. And you're looking at the finances saying, Is it going to get to a case where you end up with 8 or 9 or 10 clubs in England, and that can be financially viable, but that it isn't if there's 12, 13 or 14, and it could be that case.
It's getting to the stage where a lot of the conversations that we had at the start of COVID are now becoming more urgent. I guess that's the way with like everything, right? Certainly you think about the world burning and everything's getting urgent. Like, do you feel from your conversations with people in rugby that there's a coalescing of views where something needs to be done quickly, otherwise the situation can get out of hand?
I think there's a high level of frustration with the risk that they're dealing with all over the place. And I think if you forget about the business just for a moment and we talk about the players, like there was Wasps made 167 people redundant 2 weeks ago. Worcester, the same. They're people who have mortgages, who have families, who have, everything. And that has happened. So we're seeing it being that stark for people. And I think there's a human component to that seems to get bypassed at different times. I think there is an urge for people, for the vast majority of the teams in the UK, they're topped up by an owner at the end of every year, and they're okay with that. They seem to be comfortable with that as an idea. But it's the risk items that are coming in now, partly on the back of COVID, actually, that there's some of the clubs have taken on additional debt because of the situation. We've been fortunate in Ireland because we got grants rather than loans. And so it's not as precarious, but it is still always precarious because you're trying to work in a marketplace that spreads across Europe for the most part for Irish players. So if other players or other places are willing to pay more, do we have to pay more? So that always puts pressure on at different times. Whether there'll become a readjustment now, and that the prices and the values that are being paid to the players will go down to make it sustainable, well, that might cause another problem and another issue, because players might say, well, I don't want to play at that level.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Yeah, it's a conundrum. We didn't talk about any of the current stuff at the weekend. Munster getting a lot of plaudits. Gordon Darcy saying, it's going to be a long, slow road, but the road they're going on is at least the right road. What instinctively did you feel after the game about where Munster are after the defeat to Leinster at the weekend?
I thought Munster hung on by their fingertips for a large part of the first half. I thought they had a chance a couple of times that they may have gone on to win the game, and they didn't. So I would be disappointed with the fact that they lost the game. But what I was happy about was, with a diminished team, and Munster don't have the strength in depth that Leinster have, the effort was there, which was fine. You expect that all the time, but we didn't see that at different times. So I looked at it in light of the Munster-Leinster games of the last 3 or 4 years, and I just thought Munster played and tried to play, and without some of the quality that they would need in the backs, but they played. They had a cut. They defended incredibly well. Their scramble defence was excellent. And it looked, there was an awful lot more offloads and tip-on passes. And they looked as if they were, the line I used a couple of years ago was that every time Munster played Leinster, they didn't fire a shot. Well, they fired enough of shots. They'd like to have fired a few more. Great to see youth getting a chance. I would agree with Gordon Darcy. It's going to take a period of time and patience for that to pay dividends, and they are struggling with an injury list now at the moment. So it could be 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Munster will still be annoyed they lost the game, and I was disappointed they lost the game. But I did see steps in the right direction. Now they're steps that will have to be accelerated as quickly as they possibly can. But there was a move away from some of the rugby we've seen over the last number of years.
So you actually do feel hopeful then about that okay, so we're not getting carried away, still a defeat. the scramble defence was good, but actually there's green shoots here of a style of play, a philosophy underpinning that style of play. The players look to be enjoying that style of play, and even though it was a weakened side, they were performing at a level that looks like a team with a plan.
Yeah, I felt that was the case, actually. I mean, when you looked at the centre pairings against each other, you knew Munster were going to suffer somewhat. Ringrose and Henshaw were excellent and have been excellent all season and well for the last number of years. Goggin and Scannell are not at that level and don't have the handling ability. And I'm sure they're going to be working on it, because I don't think they were used for that for the last period of time. So it's trying to get Mikey Prendergast to give these guys the confidence to try the pass, to make those things happen, because you play with the players that you have and you have to be able to perform. But I thought they were heavily outmatched, and yet defensively I thought they did well. Ball in hand, not as slick as you'd like it to be at all. And so they're the things that, look, there was calls for a long time for a more expansive play, a game that was almost a bit more natural for the Munster guys. Mikey Prendergast has come in to do that. That can't happen overnight. That has to happen over a period of time.
Keith, can I just ask you on the Finn Russell situation over in Scotland? And it's a bit of a bizarre one. Out of the Scotland squad, I know Stuart Hogg was removed as captain as well. Gregor Townsend making some power moves. I don't want to compare it to the Ten Hag Ronaldo situation at Manchester United at the minute, but I mean, it would be a shame to not see Finn Russell at a World Cup next year, given his talent, and he's only I think he's maybe 29 or 30 years of age. And if it's about his performances, I think he had 18 points and 3 assists for Racing against Montpellier last weekend. So it's not like he's playing badly, but strange, but certainly will be a disappointing thing not to see a player of his talent at the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything behind the scenes of that. I would know that Gregor's view, having played with him, and I know him pretty well, his view is he wants Scotland to be winning. So he wants the team to be in a position that will actually consistently play well, get better all the time and win. So whether he is doing this to try and get a reaction from Finn, to try and get him back to be really, really hungry and wanting to get it, back into the Scottish team, you never know, because you never know what the story is behind that. I know there was issues over Discord last year and the year before. Is this a way for him to say, look, nobody is sacrosanct and everybody has to be part of the team to do it? I don't know, but I mean, we would say, and looking from the outside, to say, my God, he's such a talent, and maybe he might be difficult to manage. But is this part of that plan to try and manage so that we do see him in a World Cup? I don't know. It's hard to be able to see players of that quality and not have them in a squad. So I think it's one of those interesting things, but I'm kind of more interested in looking at the Irish stuff than I am in the Scottish stuff, because we know we have to deal with them. In many respects, would that make them more dangerous against us? I don't know.
Keith, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Cheers, gents.
That's Keith Wood giving us some thoughts. A wide-ranging conversation there. If you've got a view, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream. It's getting very hairy in cricket, right? England dropped another wicket, but Moeen Ali has come in and smashed 3 4s and a 6 in, I'd say, the last 8 or 9 balls, which has brought England right back into it. They were really, really struggling. So there's a stat there that England are 5 runs behind the par score at the moment, which means that they're very close to winning this. It's going to go at this stage to the last ball, you would expect, unless Ali comes in and starts smashing it the way he has been for the last over. It's like he may well do. He broke 1,000 runs in this last 10 minutes or so in career. I don't know if it's specifically T20 or if it's one day. But the weather, what's going on?
Covering up, bit of rain. Those clouds that were coming seem to have arrived.
What does this mean? I don't know.
I think the Irish are trying to work out what it means. Yeah, it was Barry McCarthy with that 5th wicket. His sister Louise plays for the Irish women's cricket team as well. But yeah, since that 5th wicket, it's kind of, as you said, gone the way of England a little bit. We were getting excited.
It's pissing. It's absolutely pissing.
Play stopped due to rain, yeah.
Right. 8:44 this morning. Players must stop due to rain. Lewis Duck, where it obviously is a 5-day thing. What happens in a T20? Do we just win? I'd say we just win. We'd blow it up, ref.
Yeah, blow it up. Call it over.
We'll find out exactly what happens. We'll do a quick bit of research for you. Regatta Great Outdoors are launching their new Freddie Flintoff collection this autumn. And to celebrate, we've a €100 Regatta voucher to give away every day, and one lucky winner will get a €500 voucher. To be with a chance of winning, like and retweet our Regatta Great Outdoors social post today on our main Twitter page. It's @OffTheBall. And remember, shop the Freddie Flintoff collection in store at Regatta Great Outdoors or online at regatta.ie. Colm Mullaney's with us. Col, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, lads. How's it going?
The Ireland cricket is pretty good.
Oh yeah, I've been glued to it all morning. Actually, it was raining. The game was supposed to start at 5 and they went out for the national anthems and they had to go back in after the national anthems because it started raining. But Ireland have been brilliant with the ball. They started pretty well in their first 10 overs with the bat, and then it kind of unravelled a little bit in the second half of their innings. But they've been excellent with the ball so far. But like when I wrote my script to come over, England were 93 for 5 after 14, and now they've moved up to 105. So in that short space of time, they've made a nice little jump.
Yeah, it was all Ali.
Yeah.
He was absolutely ripping Ireland apart there for about 4 minutes.
Yeah. But of course Ireland have form against England in some big games. Back in the 2011 World Cup, I saw they flashed some of the scores from that. That was 50 overs obviously, but that was a very significant result for Ireland at the time, and I think they beat them in a one-day international a couple of years ago as well, in Southampton possibly. So like this would be huge if they could get over the line, and they've got Afghanistan to play I think on Friday, Ireland, who England beat quite convincingly at the weekend. So it would put them in a great position if they could see this off. But I don't want to jinx anything.
This is called the Super 12, and the top 2 qualify for the semi-finals. So it's a really good format where you get loads of games, and so there's already been one qualifying section. This is like the next qualifying section, and Australia are also in this group, so you would expect Australia and England to come through. But
see a couple of our commenters on YouTube saying if the game doesn't restart, we win on run rate.
Come on, rain.
Come on, rain. I'm trying to check the Google weather for Melbourne right here. It's 19 degrees, cloudy. It's currently not saying it's raining at the minute. So
friend of the show, Daniel Harris, is doing the live blog on The Guardian. He says the umpires take the players off. We're surely going to lose time and overs. England are miles behind the rate, and might this settle the match? He's asking. The rain is caning down.
So we wanted to keep raining.
We do, for once in our lives.
Yeah.
He's gone full caps, Daniel Harris as well. He's excited.
It does look quite bad, the weather there now, doesn't it? Which might bode well for Ireland.
If we don't get back on, Ireland win, and they'll have an even better shot than they do now if we do play a shortened match.
Come on, lads.
Yeah, it's great though, isn't it? It's actually quite a very good format to watch.
Brilliant,
the T20. I have to say, it is someone that wouldn't be overly.
It's all right. We're all allowed to like cricket now. We're mature as a country. The women sing "ooh-ah" up the ra. We're like, we actually like cricket. It's like it's the very crucible of modernity in Ireland.
Yeah. Remember back in 07 and 2011, didn't they have 2 good World Cup campaigns? And that kind of brought it into the national consciousness a bit more, definitely from my point of view anyway. I took a bit of notice from then on.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin O'Brien was that superstar, and so we just need a little bit more of that. And it looks like a couple of the lads playing at the moment, the bowlers in particular, are quite young. There's like a 22-year-old bowler who's quite experienced, who's doing quite well and has done quite well today. Now, let's wait and see if Moeen Ali rips them apart again, but maybe he doesn't get a chance.
There is that thing, and people can say it's childish all they want, but if Ireland, some people watching this morning aren't into cricket whatsoever, but because Ireland are beating England or close to beating England potentially,
they invented the
we're
game.
all getting on board.
Yeah, well, they invented the game. I mean, come on,
it's great. If we're beating England, that's it.
I think England's second in the world. Ireland ranked 12th. I think Ireland are the second lowest ranked team that's left in the competition. So
if they can't restart in the next 11 minutes, the game is over.
Oh, we just do a countdown for the next 11 minutes.
And it's absolutely lashing. There's not a hope in hell they're getting back out in the next 11 minutes. The white tarpaulin is on the 8:56. So if by 8:56, if they're not back on, Ireland are going to win.
Daniel Harris has been in touch with Colm, our producer, who says he thinks Ireland are going to win.
Woohoo!
Oh, lads. Wow. So 1856.
So we're sitting here watching rain. It's the happiest we've ever been in our lives. This is the greatest sports event of the day.
Yeah.
Watching the rain come down. Come on, rain!
Well, we're not used to live sport that we can enjoy on AM. You know, sometimes you get the tennis in the Southern Hemisphere and stuff as well. But it's one of those rare moments we can support Ireland in something.
Just looking at the TV now, the faces on the English players, they're just looking up towards the sky and they look pretty glum.
I can't wait to be patronised by them afterwards. It's going to be great. Oh yeah, they're all plucky. They'll enjoy. They're going to say, yes we will. Yes we will. And yes we were plucky. Yes, it was great. Oh look, finally ring. It's falling on us. And we like it.
It's great. It is fantastic.
First time in our lives. We've been delighted by the rain.
Can we start calling them the plucky English?
Oh,
we just turn this around.
You know, it's good for them to be underdogs.
Yeah.
It's really part of their character, the bulldog spirit. Le roast beef.
Oh, there's the lovely Melbourne skyline in the background.
It's too enjoyable. Why are there not more people at it? I thought that, you know.
MCG, that's the MCG as well, one of the iconic grounds. The BBC reported that it's, I think, Ireland's first competitive game there. I'm open to correction on that.
I think England have a poor record in this format in the MCG as well. I think it's 3 defeats and no wins. So let's make it 4.
Right. A reminder, OTB AM brought to you with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. Some of the Irish cricketers, they need another month for their mo to grow properly. But anyway, let's talk about the open goal last night. I think we have a screenshot of this. So this is Danilo Sican. And so we've got a screen grab up of it here. If anybody's not watching, he's about 3 yards outside the 6 yard box. And all he's got to do is cushion the ball. I would say the pass is perfect. The crossfield ball has taken out the goalkeeper and the final defender. There's no other person inside. He's onside because he's behind the ball. All he's got to do, and then I'll see a defender there. All he's got to do is cushion it. But instead he tries to control it / shoot. And then it scuttles and squirts like a greased shit on the outside of the right post. If you could zoom in on Joe Hart's face there, it would be one of sheer fear and acceptance that the ball is about to be rolled into the net. And the pass from Mikhailo Mudryk was firm, but it was a professional footballer can control those passes, and he was the best player by a mile for Shakhtar. And you could see his face afterwards. He was like, "What are you after doing? How did you miss?" Yeah. I don't know where it ranks in terms of the worst misses of all time. It's certainly in the conversation, and it's probably one of the worst misses in Champions League history. I don't know. It did no good for Celtic anyway because they're still out of Europe. But yeah, and we could see that the Mudryk kid who's 21, been linked with Arsenal, been linked with Roma in recent days as well. Very good. He was brilliant. Brilliant last night, and his goal was fantastic. So he won't be too happy with his teammate Sican. Sican will be sick this morning. So the rain isn't as bad now. They've got 4 minutes left to save this.
Don't be saying that, Ger. Jesus.
There you go. What else is going on? Sorry, Carl.
Well, the Champions League last night, Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola admits his side have a problem scoring penalties. Riyad Mahrez failed to convert from the spot last night against Borussia Dortmund, finished goalless in their game in Group G, but City guaranteed top spot in the group regardless of that result. Chelsea secured their place in the knockout stage after a 2-1 win against Salzburg in Group E, and Celtic, as mentioned, set to finish bottom of Group F after their 1-0 draw with Shakhtar Donetsk. A point for Liverpool tonight away to Ajax will secure their place in the last 16. Group A's other game tonight sees Napoli look to maintain their 100% record with the visit of Rangers, and Tottenham can cement their place at the top of Group D with the win over Sporting. Here at home, the First Division playoffs get underway tonight. Runners-up Waterford away to Treaty United. Galway United travel to Longford Town. Both of those matches underway from 7:45. In the Women's Champions League this evening, Chelsea look to make it back-to-back wins in Group A. Paul Green remains in temporary charge there for their meeting with the Albanian champions Vlasnia. In snooker today, Fergal O'Brien, Jordan Brown and Aaron Hill all in action at the English Open qualifiers. And in racing, there's a 7-race card at the Curragh this afternoon, the first off there at 1:05.
The penalty situation in Man City is ridiculous. It's gone beyond ridiculous, and Guardiola mentioned it last night.
Well, is it not just Mahrez?
No, well, City have missed 25 penalties in all competitions since 2016. That's 10 more than any other Premier League team. Yeah, Mahrez is his 10th career penalty miss, his 3rd and 4. Well, but he scored his first 9 out of 10. Yeah, so it's a recent thing for Mahrez.
I don't really care about what this season is the only one that matters, right? And if Haaland had been there, Haaland would have scored.
Yeah, well, he scored at the weekend, I suppose, against Brighton. But
so I don't buy it.
But if Haaland's not on the pitch, he's going to be on the pitch most of the time. But I mean,
who else has missed this season? Do you have that
for City? I don't know. I guess my point is that Jared Bowen missed a penalty for West Ham last weekend and is straight away taken off the penalties. Yeah, Benrahma scores one. Why is Mahrez still kicking them when he's on the pitch?
I don't know. I think they're probably trying to get his confidence back because he's not quite at the level that he was at. So it's 8:54. We've 2 more minutes. There's a lot of handshaking going on. Emma Carroll's not having any of this, by the way. She goes, you all thought the Golf Weekly watch-alongs were something. Try a rain watch-along. And then at least rain is more interesting to watch than cricket anyway, with the eye roll. So even beating England in cricket, Emma's still not having it. But I think it looks like what?
M&S in the comments he's given a live rundown.
Lashing rain and come on.
Really bad now, the rain.
I love you, Australia. Why don't they just wear football boots? Why don't they just wear football boots?
The Irish lads look happy shaking hands, don't they?
No.
All over.
It is. It looks like they're all shaking hands.
Yeah.
So Ireland have beaten England at the T20 Men's World Cup in 2022. This is absolutely historic stuff, and it was a brilliant performance from them, by the way. It wasn't kind of fluky in by any stretch of the imagination. They started brilliantly. They had a bit of a late collapse with the late batters, and then they gave England a very attainable target, and then we just bowled brilliantly until Mullaney came on, and then it was like, oh, this is getting all a bit hairy, and then the rain came.
Saved us. We'll have to get Balbirnie or some of the lads on for sure off the back of this.
The rain gods are Irish.
You can see some of the Irish fans as well in the crowd with their leprechaun hats and all the rest. The couple of beers. The English don't look too happy, but I mean, what a moment. And I think the way the game was going, rain or no rain, Ireland were playing well. Mullaney was kind of doing the job, but look at the Irish fans, absolutely loving it. Irish fans in Australia are going to get their money's worth in terms of sport between this and the Women's World Cup next year and plenty of other bits.
And the good weather and the great lifestyle that they have, you know. And Zach Tooley signing a new contract to become the most playing Irish person ever in the AFL. It's going pretty well at the moment. That is absolutely sensational.
Yeah, the BBC calling it dreadful England slipped to 86 for 5 against Ireland. That's the latest headline.
Look into my veins.
That's their latest headline on the live blog. But that's a hugely significant result for Ireland, not in overall terms in the history of it, but also in terms of the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to give them a huge boost in the group. As I say, I think they play Afghanistan later in the week, so if they can get a win there, they'll be in a really good spot. But there's the Irish players celebrating now in the lashing rain to the fans in the stadium.
Gee, is it raining? I hadn't noticed.
And that is just fantastic. That is fantastic.
Class. Yeah, M&S in the comments, got you lads on me TV and 5 Live Sports Extra on Alexa. Jonathan Agnew breaking it, lads. Then he said 3 minutes. Then he said coming down heavier, they've said. Then he said we've won. So everyone thanking M&S in the comments for the live updates. Yeah, that's brilliant. It's brilliant. And I only wish we could hear the English commentary on the TV. That's why you always, when you're watching England at a major football tournament and they start losing, you could be watching on an Irish channel, but when they start losing, you switch straight over to the English channel just to hear the commentary and the despair in the voices.
T20 is the type of thing that could easily catch on.
Yeah. Well, this has been thoroughly enjoyable. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, it's a very enjoyable format. And I know we're saying it's raining and stuff, but there's a good chance Ireland would have won that match if it did go the full way. So credit to them for their.
We were favoured at that stage
for the win. So they win by 5 runs on the DLS method. I think is that.
Yeah.
What the screen is telling us there. So Andy Balbirnie top scoring with 62 as well. He was excellent earlier on, and it's a brilliant result because, as I say, they were brilliant in the first 10 overs. Then it kind of unravelled a little bit. But the bowling effort then in the early stages was fantastic, and now all the players making their way over towards the fans there. Some great scenes.
Trying to hug while holding on to the beer glasses as well. That's not an easy thing. Trying to do two things at once. Great scenes. Barry McCarthy as well, who got the 5th.
You can't say they haven't deserved it, says Daniel Harris on the Guardian Live blog. It's been a brilliant performance for them again, and I'm already envious of the night they're going to have. But this is a serious cricket team. Let's not pretend to the contrary, and they've made their own history. Glorious stuff. Glorious cricket.
Shifty lad in the comments as well. Commentary is being very complimentary, lads. They said it's well deserved. Fair play to them. The plucky English giving it to us.
You can't do it anymore. Nathan Johns, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, how you doing?
Can you
good
maybe
afternoon, good evening here.
Yeah, can you put some context on what we're witnessing on our screens here? This is incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible. And the last time, look, everyone remembers 2011, Kevin O'Brien. The last time Ireland played England in T20 cricket actually was the World Cup in 2010, and it was complete reversal. Ireland were in a winning position and the rain came and cost Ireland the chance to win, and there was no result. Today, I have to say, if there was 2 more balls there, or even 1 more ball, England probably win this game. Mullaney was on strike for England. Ireland were bowling their spinner, Gareth Delaney. Mullaney loves spin. He had 12 runs off just 3 balls in that over. England were 5 runs behind where they needed to be. He hits the next ball for 6 and then it starts raining. Game over and England win. This is how fine the margins were. So look, it's from the Irish point of view, it's a bit of redemption from 2010 and what happened there. A win's a win, and Ireland were very good value for their win. And look, they were very poor with the bat at the end of their innings, and the fact that the rain came meant that England didn't get a chance to make up for that at the end of their innings. So there's some poetic justice there for sure, but it's massive. Look, anytime you win a game at the World Cup as a country like Ireland, where cricket's such a small sport, it can't be overstated how big it is. And look, England, Melbourne Cricket Ground, it's, you know, all the superlatives are certainly deserved.
Ireland bowled well, England batted poorly. Is that the general consensus, Nathan?
At the start, yeah. I think the huge moment, second ball of the innings, Josh Little gets England's captain out, Joss Butler. He's their best batter, probably. And he's one of the favourites to be the top run scorer at this tournament, and he nicks off second ball, so that set the tone. Look, Ireland could probably put this game to bed a lot earlier. There were 3 drop catches as well as the lads bowled. They've dropped 3 catches now. 2 of them didn't really come back to bite them. The batters who were dropped got out relatively quickly after that. There was one drop where the player went on to score 12 runs after he was dropped. And in a game like this, where 5 runs is the margin, you're flirting with trouble there. But look, it was an excellent bowling performance. I thought Andrew Balbirnie, the captain, manoeuvred his bowling changes really well, who to bowl and where to bowl them. He gave his best bowlers, Ger and Little, more time at the beginning, more time than they're used to in the game. Probably with one eye on the fact that it might be raining, and you're better off. You don't want the rain to come and think, God, we wasted our best bowlers. So look, there's an argument to say he could have bowled them more, but a special mention must go to Fionn Hand as well. He's his first World Cup game, only his 3rd international game, and he comes on and second ball he gets rid of Ben Stokes, who again one of England's biggest players. So there's a lot to unpack here and a lot to digest, but it's fantastic. I'm looking here at the Irish players going to the stands, celebrate with their families, and it's ridiculous.
What's the age profile like of this team? You know, because there's definitely a few young fellas who we're going to see for hopefully the next decade.
It's mixed. The likes of Sterling and Balbirnie are in their 30s, but even like someone like Paul Sterling, he's been around he was there in 2010 actually for that game I mentioned. But he was so young when he started. He's only 32, and he's probably the most experienced player in this team. So, but yeah, Josh Little is early 20s. Harry Tector's 22. Gareth Delaney's 25. Lorcan Tucker's, who batted very, very well today, he's in and around that age as well. So yeah, no, look, there's a lot of young guys in this team. There's an argument that the depth isn't where it needs to be, but certainly the 11 that was on the field today, look, that 11 the bones and core of that team will be together for a long time to come. That is for sure.
Nathan, last question for you, Nathan. The rest of the competition, look, I think everybody would still expect England and Australia to come out of this group, although maybe this really damages England's hopes. But what do you expect now from Ireland for the rest of the matches they have?
Well, look, the narrative out of this camp ever since the West Indies win was they had a free hit. They had 5 games no matter what, and let's be honest, they weren't going to qualify for a semi-final. So we'll just take some scalps and get through, and they've done that. They've beaten England today. They got Afghanistan on Friday. They beat Afghanistan 3-2 in a series in Belfast in August. So look, that's a very winnable game. And then you've got a crack at the hosts in Brisbane in their own country, Australia. They're struggling. They had a come from behind win last night, but they lost their first game. And New Zealand look to be a really good team. Actually, New Zealand are playing at the MCG now, provided the rain stays away. So we'll see how they are. So look, Ireland should definitely be targeting at least one more win from this group. For those who delight in such skullduggery, this win really puts England under the pump. They've got playing Australia and New Zealand still, and probably one defeat in those games, which is very likely given the way T20 cricket can fluctuate. That's probably them out of the tournament. So it's a big win on multiple levels.
Nathan, enjoy whatever is about to happen down there. It sounds like it's going to be madness for the next while, and I know you've got loads of work to do. But thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks, Ger. Cheers.
It's Nathan Johns there giving us immediate reaction from the MCG in Melbourne. Right, well, that's not a bad morning. It's set things up nicely for us. Owen Morgan's on commentary for Sky, by the way. He's at the ground.
Is he happy? Or?
He looks pretty happy, I have to say. Like, he seems to be suppressing a smile.
The party in Melbourne is going to be scandalous.
Right. There you go. Cathal, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. 3 minutes past 9, Ireland have beaten England in T20. And how did Nathan phrase it? If this type of skullduggery is your thing,
then England are struggling.
There you go. Look, if that's your kink, that's up to you. You're allowed to have whatever it is in your life. That's fine. Tommy Rooney, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger. Morning, Shane.
I know you were glued to the cricket there, Tommy.
Absolutely. Happy to be delayed by the cricket.
There you go. The All-Stars are they're Friday in the Convention Centre, are they?
They are, yeah.
Have you got your tux?
Ahead. I haven't.
What?
Didn't get an invite.
What? Yeah, host of the preeminent Gaelic football podcast and you can't even scrounge up an L invite to the All-Stars. What is going on? Whoever's organising that's bad form.
I don't know, Ger. I don't know. Maybe, do you know what? Maybe you're better off not being at them, because we had to pick our football pod team of the year, and, you know, you wouldn't want to upset people either, you know.
The football pod team of the year, will it be the All-Star team? Is there significant differences, or can it even be? Have you grandfathered in some players who didn't make it to the All-Star shortlist?
I haven't, and this is a collective team, and personally I feel it's quite safe. Like, I would like to debate this out with you guys and have some put some changes here if you feel like it. We have 45 nominees for the Football All-Stars this weekend. We have 3 goalkeepers nominated. Do you want me to go through them quickly?
Yeah, sure, go for it. Yeah. 3
goalkeepers nominated. 3 very different goalkeepers. 3 keepers nominated for different reasons. Ethan Rafferty of Armagh, Shane Ryan of Kerry, Evan Comerford of Dublin. We have 18 defenders nominated. Kerry have Foley, Morley, Obioglia, Graham O'Sullivan and Tom O'Sullivan and Gavin White nominated. Galway have Liam Silk, Sean Kelly, John Daly nominated, only 3. Christy McCaig, Conor McCluskey and Brendan Rodgers are nominated from Derry. The Dubs have James McCarthy and Lee Gannon. Lee Keegan is nominated from Mayo, Charlie O'Burns from Armagh, Sean Powder from Cork and Cian Sheehan from Limerick. In midfield, there's 6 players nominated. Paul Conroy of Galway and Killian McDade. Conor Glass of Derry and Garrett McInnes of Derry. Brian Fenton from Dublin and Jack Barry from Kerry. And up top, the forwards, 18 with 9 different counties getting a shout. David Clifford, Paddy Clifford, Sean O'Shea, Stephen O'Brien from Kerry, Shane Walsh, Damien Comer, Rob Finnerty from Galway, Rian O'Neill, Stephen Campbell and Rory Grugan from Armagh, Kieran Kilkenny and Con O'Callaghan from Dublin, Shane McGuigan, Ethan Doherty from Derry. Kildare have Ben McCormick nominated, Owen Cleary is nominated from Clare, Stephen Sherlock is nominated from Cork, and Jack McCarran is nominated from Monaghan. Now, the All-Star team is going to be picked from those 45, and we can take from there.
Okay, so who's in goals?
I don't know if there's much of a debate around this. There has been a bit of a debate, but Shane Ryan is in goals for me. Kerry goalkeeper, led his team to the All-Ireland, conceded 1 goal, I think 1 goal from play all year. Like Owen Sheehan was banging on about it all year. A screamer, an exceptional goal, but he did his job really, really well throughout. The naysayers or the Ethan Rafferty selectors will say that Ethan Rafferty rocked the championship. He entertained us throughout. He certainly did. He scored 2 points. He laid on that ball for Jamar Hall in extra time against Galway that probably should have seen Armagh over the line before Killian McDade rescued it and brought it to penalties. He had 80 touches in open play compared to Shane Ryan's involvement in open play. Armagh used him as a running goalkeeper, so he's a modern day version of what we think the goalkeeper might become. But I find it hard to look beyond Shane Ryan, lads. If Dublin had beaten Kerry, you probably would give it to Evan Comerford for his ability to kill the game. I'm only joking. But, you know, that was Comerford's biggest contribution, I would say, and it was like a big moment. So
it was. Look, not the type of thing that you used to get All-Stars for, but I can see in the modern game, like...
Talk about skullduggery.
Is Rafferty not just... Like, Rafferty's a penalty save away in that Galway game from a definite All-Star, is he not? Because you get to the semi-final and then it's shoo-in.
Shane, I'd be very surprised if every single argument of yours today isn't an Ulster argument, but I don't know. Rafferty, is he a shoe-in? He had such a rocky start to the championship, and Ethan Rafferty is one of the top scorers in that Armagh 15 when he plays. Like, he's played a number of years at wing forward or midfield in inter-county football. He's not a goalkeeper. It's so impressive what he did, but when Shane Ryan was that good, it's hard to look past him when he's brought Kerry to an All-Ireland final. I'm on it.
Okay. Was there a bit of doubt before? Am I misremembering whether or not who was the goalkeeper? We're not sure, and then
Peter Keane flip-flop between Shane Murphy and Shane Ryan a lot. I found it difficult to tell who was better throughout because you weren't sure the traits of which, but Shane Ryan was number 1 all year long, essentially this year, especially after the league, and you always got the sense that Jack was sticking with Shane Ryan, and he proved them right in a lot of ways. Like, he delivered throughout. There was no big mistakes, and it's just hard. I just find it hard to look past that in a goalkeeper.
Okay, full back line.
Chris McCaig is in it for me. I started questioning myself today because it's so long since we picked this team, but Chris McCaig, captain Derry to the Ulster title. He did so many unbelievable man-marking jobs throughout. unfortunately, some of the images that stick out in my head for Christian McCaig is Rory Gallagher screaming at him after he took 2 shots in the Galway game that he shouldn't have taken. But McCaig just led by example throughout, and like Derry winning the Ulster title is massive. He captained them. Jason Foley's full back. Wasn't tested against Caen, but look at the job they did locking down Comer. That Kerry defensive unit, similar to Galway's, it was about the collective. But Foley was just exceptional all year long, and he's progressed so much from the player who broke onto the scene, was playing cornerback a couple of years ago.
It's funny, isn't it? Like when you're thinking about selecting a team at the end of the season that represents the best players of the year, you could easily just decide that you're going to pick the best 6 man markers because they're the ones who are doing the one-on-one defending, which is the art of defending. A lot of the defenders who get picked end up being highlighted by a system. Sometimes they're a +1, and so they get on a lot of ball and they look flashy, but they don't actually have a lot of blocking to do. They don't have a lot of man marking to do. They're never in that 1v1, as Kenny would say. And so we don't know how good a defender they are. But in this instance, I think you kind of do know that Jason Foley's an excellent defender, as well as somebody who is benefiting from the system.
Yeah, I totally agree, Ger. I think you're right that can happen a lot. Or else you'll have the players who are bursting forward and getting the scores, and perhaps they have a slightly freer role, or they've less someone marking them, not marking them, you know?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think up to this point, it's hard to argue with those 2 selections. Now, the third one is going to cause a bit of consternation. I don't think it should. I actually think Tom O'Sullivan is the shoe-in for an All-Star. Talk about man-on-man markers. He always got the toughest job. He wasn't protected in a way that other parts of the Kerry defence was. Tom O'Sullivan kicking points throughout.
So the argument against him is Shane Walsh, is it?
The argument against him is that people say semi-finals and finals count for double. Okay, and I completely understand that when it comes to the All-Stars. We're going to probably have a debate about the rock star that is Rian O'Neill a little later. I hope we do have a debate about it. But Tom O'Sullivan throughout the championship was unbelievable, and in the All-Ireland final, you can say he didn't lay a paw on Shane Walsh, but it's actually what Shane Walsh did in that final is a lot more to do with Shane Walsh than it was to do with Tom O'Sullivan. I think there's one stage when O'Sullivan gives him a bit too much space, and he's like, there's no way he's kicking that. There's another stage when Walsh is nowhere near him. Another stage where Walsh hands off a different Kerry defender and pops it over the bar. Walsh was just on fire. He was on it. Can't remember who he said it to that morning. It could have been the Galway kit man or kit woman, and he said it to him that morning. I'm on it. He's going to be on. Shane Walsh, there was no stopping Shane Walsh in that All-Ireland final. Tom O'Sullivan didn't get burned for a goal. Do you know? There's no great images of him getting absolutely destroyed. I think on the balance of the entire year, I'm giving Tom O'Sullivan that shout, but I am open to
who's he ahead of?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of jiggery pokery going on in the half back line, so you could easily, if you wanted to keep it a bit more of a systemic team, you could put Liam Silk there. I'm probably giving it away now, but I like Liam Silk is in the top 6 defenders of the year in my opinion. So Silk number 4 or 2 probably is more natural. I'm not sure who I should go for. I actually think Tom O'Sullivan was essentially the best defender in the league this year.
In the league? In
the championship, sorry.
Okay.
In the entire year, I think he was the best footballer. Defender.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got Liam Silk in the half-back line. You've already told us that.
I do. I've got Tyg Morley at 6 from Kerry. Again, you might talk about the system. I think you're right, but he was just so integral to how that Kerry system worked. And John Daly, again, a benefactor in ways of the system. He had that +1 role, but as a playmaker, some of his passes were the highlight of the year. And like where Daly has come from, recovering from a terrible broken leg to get to the form he was in today, at the minute was brilliant to see. So I kind of slept on John Daly, I'll be honest, a little bit, and then I realised around the All-Ireland semi-final, holy God, this guy is unbelievable. So I'm a big fan of John Daly. I find it hard to argue with that defence as a unit, but there are arguments to be made. Gavin White, for me personally, I find it very difficult to leave him off that team, and I thought Jerry O'Burns from Armagh was brilliant as well.
I'm a big fan of Brendan Rodgers as well. Cult hero Brendan Rodgers. Now look, it's hard to argue against bringing in John Daly, because like Dad's a Galway man, and like didn't he set up nearly all of Comer's scores in that All-Ireland game? Yeah,
that's the thing.
He kicks like a forward, and he's only 21. So it's hard, like I would have Rodgers close, but I mean it's hard to leave John Daly out, I think, at wing back.
I think you're right. I think if that All-Ireland semi-final goes the other way and Rodgers gets the best of Damien Comer, there's very hard to leave Brendan Rodgers out of the All-Star team.
And Daly didn't get into the RTE Sunday game team of the year, I don't think. So like,
Did he not?
but like
Okay.
a lot of people were even saying, you know, he was almost good enough to be nominated for Footballer of the Year. Like he was probably in the top 7 or 8. So yeah, leaving John Daly out, I think, is a non-runner.
Okay, I do think semi-finals count double, and I think James McCarthy put in one of the greatest performances an individual has ever put in for the greatest team of all time, and I think I would certainly find a way to grandfather him in. Everybody here knows I'm biased, big fan of James McCarthy, but
I'm happy you're making that argument, Ger, because Paddy Andrews very passionately made it on the football pod as well. And
like it's an
I can see
all-time
it.
great standout performance in the losing team. It's like it's the defensive equivalent of Shane Walsh in the final. Like it's almost as effective. Like lest we forget, Kerry were killing Dublin until a little bit of Evan Comerford jiggery pokery, and then James McCarthy had to back that up. So Comerford keeps them alive, but they're like clinging on by their fingernails, and then they push Kerry to the pin of their collar, and they require like the greatest free kick we've ever seen. Like, but this Kerry team, who I think could easily win 3 in a row, would have been stopped in their tracks cold by James McCarthy's performance in that semi-final. And I think
by one man.
You need to be able to, well, not very many other people stood up to the level that they were capable of standing up to. In the second half, several players played well, but in the first half, Fenton was good in the first half. Sorry, but McCarthy was sensational.
Can I say something against that? So these are judged on league and championship, yes. So Dublin get relegated from the league.
Are they?
Hold on. Yeah, I think so. I think they should.
No, we don't know.
McCarthy, Dublin get relegated from the league. They win a Leinster championship at a canter, as they usually do. So then you're looking at a quarter-final win and a loss to Kerry. So I find it hard to put any dubs.
A loss, yeah, but like scoreboard journalism here. You know, good. You can play the best game of your life in a defeat.
Well, yeah.
And for the All-Stars, it's not about whether or not the team won or lost.
Who are you putting McCarthy in for? In head
I'm putting Liam Silk in the full-back line.
Right.
And you do what you want there. I don't care.
Who are you taking out?
Well, it's either. I think it's one of the Kerry lads.
One of the Kerry lads.
It's
So
either Foley or Sullivan.
Foley or Sullivan.
Or it's Liam Silk. I don't care. Right? You. I don't mind. But I'm saying in my team,
Kerry.
I will. Maybe we can come back to this before we finish, but like I will say that the triple turnover, the kick out that he breaks, and the point that he kicks, being in the stadium was like, and feeling the blue wave and the noise, where usually I'm, a broken Mead fan. I was a neutral that day. It was incredible to witness what James McCarthy did. Like he got the entire place off their feet. He did only play 2 championship games.
Yes, correct.
I still will go back to the point that Kieran Donaghy was Footballer of the Year when he played a game and a half. Like he was the Footballer of the Year.
But they won the All-Ireland.
Yeah.
But they won the All-Ireland.
Yeah, but he turned the course of that. And like, anyway, okay.
James didn't turn the course of anything. But look,
he turned the course of an absolute hammering into last kick of the game, I think.
Sure.
But like,
who cares?
Who cares? Who cares? That's the way.
I played brilliantly.
Did you feel alive? Are you not entertained?
I felt more alive when Sean O'Shea kicked the winning score and Kerry go on to win the All-Ireland as a result.
You're up for Kerry, were you?
Well, no, I felt alive as a neutral watching that moment. I was like,
yeah, but you wouldn't have got that moment, is my point. It would have been a 12 to 15 point mullering.
But I think it would be harsh to take a Kerry lad out because of it.
Harsh, but your life is harsh.
True.
Midfield, Conor Glass and Killian McDade. I think Killian McDade might be one of those unopposed.
I had this wrapped up on June 25th. I tweeted, you can hand Conor Glass as All-Star this evening. That was about 8 minutes into the Derry Clare game. And the next day, I actually tweeted, you can hand Killian McDade as All-Star this evening. But that was a much easier argument because he had put in one of the most remarkable performances in the All-Ireland quarter-final against Armagh, where he single-handedly essentially get them through in extra time with that goal, that unbelievable point. Like McDade and Glass, 2 guys back from the AFL, not always the easiest transition, but did they set the tone this year? Physically, even emotionally, the way they played. McDade's quality on the ball, I think it was the Leitrim game when we first realised that, okay, this guy can kick points. I think he kicked 3 points from the 45 that day, and he just delivered throughout. Awesome footballers, the 2 of them. Glass after leading Glen to another Derry Championship at the weekend, so he's had a good year himself. So I just find it hard to argue with the 2 of them. The other shouts, Paul Conroy faded as the championship went on, had an unbelievable year up to that. Fenton, I think we do judge the Dubs at different standards. But he just didn't have the type of year that we're so used to seeing with Brian Fenton. Jack Barry was in the mix. I actually think Jim O'Connor was unlucky not to get nominated. But I just find it hard to argue with... Garrett McKinless as well was nominated too. Find it hard to argue with McDaid and Glass.
Okay, the half-forward line.
Yeah, there's a couple of debates we can have here, right? But I'll give you the half-forward line that we settled on in the football pod. Paddy Clifford, 10. Sean O'Shea, 11. Kieran Kilkenny, 12.
I can spot my omission there straight away.
Go for it, who?
Kilkenny.
Shall I give our full forward line before?
Sorry, go on, Tommy, yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about them as a 6 because there might be somebody who's...
13, David Clifford.
Sorry, the second unopposed, 13, yeah.
15, Shane Walsh.
Third unopposed.
Yeah.
14, Damien Comer.
Okay.
Now go on, have at me.
Kilkenny out and Shane McGuigan in for me. McGuigan was unbelievable this year. And both of them lost semi-final. Like it's it's much for muchness. And Kilkenny was brilliant again. And maybe you do have to get the dubs in there.
You don't.
1 or 2.
I don't think you do. Like my dub, you know my dub. I would tend to agree that if we're holding Brian Fenton to higher standards, you kind of have to hold Kilkenny to the same standard where he's been in the conversation for Footballer of the Year and didn't reach that level this year. Second half against Kerry, stood up. First half against Kerry, didn't have his best game, I would say.
He was head and shoulders above the rest of their dubs throughout the year. The only one that consistently performed. Fenton had moments, McCarthy had that second half. Kieran Kilkenny throughout the year was the only dub that kept his standards up there, in my opinion.
Rian O'Neill not in the team, and so therefore do you not stick Shane Walsh into the half forward line and away you go?
Because you have to have Comer and Walsh, don't you?
Do you have to have Comer, Shane? Like that's the big debate that we would have had. Like Shane McGuigan, I totally agree with you. He was actually in my personal team, top scorer in Ulster.
Oh, you're distancing yourself from the official football pod team there, throwing your football pod colleagues under the bus. I hope Paddy and James both realise that. It's okay to do it on the pod, but you can't do it in public.
Yeah, you're right. And I made the argument for Shane McGuigan, guys, but like, how do you leave off Rian O'Neill? Like, when you say, are you not entertained? Rian O'Neill and that Armagh side delivered so much this year from day one. Like, from that beating they dished out to the Dubs and Croker, where we all stood up and went, what's going on here? And it led to their relegation. Armagh obviously fell short in one of the most epic games of Gaelic football I think we've ever seen, like on every level. And Rian O'Neill was essential through it.
If you do look at it on results, and you can switch it around whatever way you want in terms of O'Neill and Shane McGuigan, like McGuigan won his province, O'Neill didn't, and then of course McGuigan gets to the All-Ireland semi-final, O'Neill doesn't, albeit O'Neill was brilliant in that defeat to Galway in the quarter-final, and that kick to bring it to extra time was just incredible. But if you do look at results, and results is maybe a harsh way of differentiating between players, but McGuigan has to get in there. O'Neill would be the most unlucky player not to get in there, probably.
It's the All-Star, Shane. It's not about results. It's about individual performances, isn't it?
Yeah. But then if individual performances lead to big wins, is that not something to take into account as well? I don't know. Like, I'm not going to argue too strongly against Rian O'Neill because I can't and don't want to.
Who are you leaning on, Ger? Like, I would have thought that people would have been chewing Damien Comer out of this team, to be honest.
Somebody who knows a little bit about playing football, a bit more than I would say the three of us, even Tommy.
No way.
Is Cian Johnson, who's working with us at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Rian O'Neill over Comer all day, Tommy. Comer was locked down in the quarter-final and the final. Had a good game against Derry when Rogers marked him instead of McCaig.
Hey. I'm listening to Cian on that one.
Hey.
Like, I had Comer in my team because of what he did in that All-Ireland semi-final, and I think the Galway system let him down in the All-Ireland final. Like, it made no sense to me that Damien Comer didn't get any ball. Maybe he wasn't right.
If you take Comer out, you have 4 of your 15 then, Tommy, as Galway men. Is that enough for what they achieved this year? Maybe it is.
They didn't win the All-Ireland.
Yeah.
Like, I think it is in ways, Like, you look at the Tailteann Cup All-Star team, Cavan got 4, Westmeath got 6. We're looking at giving Kerry 7 here at the minute. I'll leave it up to you two. If you want to drop Kilkenny, or you want to drop Comer, or you want to drop who was our third wing back that's a bit in trouble. If you want to drop one of our defenders, I'm happy for you boys to make the chopping block, make the decisions here now.
If it was down to me alone, I'd be taking Kilkenny out and putting McGuigan in.
Rory Larmer says the same thing on Twitter as well.
I see Monaghan men think alike. It's not necessarily Ulster bias. Kilkenny's been brilliant, but as Ger said, I think we hold him to a certain standard, and he hasn't.
Are we going with Keane Johnson's pick here? Are we going with Reen instead of Damien Comer?
Instead of Comer. Look, I have a lot of Galway family watching this right now, so I'm not gonna argue against.
Yeah, we are. I'm going to stop him from being scared and saying, sometimes you just got to make these decisions.
Yeah, I don't want to be accused of too much Ulster bias by replacing Comer with O'Neill either. So that's my.
Well, I think Rian O'Neill had such an exceptional, entertaining year. Oh, we're dropping Damien Comer for Rian O'Neill. I don't know about this.
It'll inspire him over the winter.
Maybe.
He'll stick that picture up. What do you think? What do you think of that? OTB AM when they win next year.
Yes.
We're backing you, Tommy. That's what you wanted.
No, I'm leaving it up to you to make the decision. This is our team.
I'd be sticking Rian O'Neill in instead of Kilkenny, and I'd have Comer in ahead of Kilkenny.
Okay.
That would be
Rian
mine.
O'Neill 12.
Yeah, I'd put Shane Walsh 12.
Shane McGuigan's sitting crying into his cornflakes, lads.
If he doesn't had an unbelievable year.
He was class.
An unbelievable year. Yeah.
One of the standouts. Every single game he played, I watched him destroy Monaghan up close and personal in the athletic grounds one day. Every time he touched the ball, you just had a sense of dread in your stomach. And I don't get that about many players. Rian is another, but McGuigan, anytime he touches it.
I think Derry have 2 All-Star picks here already, and they'll do well to get 3. I'll be honest about that.
Yeah, and it's probably hard to argue against McKaig or Glass.
And sorry, do you think that the All-Star team is going to be the same as this? Football of the
year?
I
actually think it'll be very close to the football pod team. But I do think, I'm with you. Let's put Rian O'Neill in at 12, or in and put Shane Walsh at 12.
Okay.
Keep gaming. Because I do think that he had a big year.
He did have a big year. It was kind of when you have the semi-final that you get a lot of credit for that because those games do count double. And I do buy Keane's point though that if they had McKaig on him, we might be talking about an All-Ireland final where Chrissy McKaig versus David Clifford was one of the all-time great battles. But we'll have to wait to whatever the competition is called next year. What is the competition called next year? Is it a Super 12s?
Well, it's 16 really, isn't
Super
it?
16s? My Sweet 16s?
I don't know what they're calling it. Sweet 16s, if you want to go with that, okay.
Let's go with
it. Player of the Year?
We have 3 nominees here. Kenny McDade, Shane Walsh, David Clifford.
Come on. If Galway had won, right, you'd have to give it to McDade even though Shane Walsh wins the game for them.
Yeah.
Over the course of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you guys were all kept saying, "Oh, Shane Walsh, he's so. I can't wait to see what it's like when he finally bursts, when he finally breaks out." And then it didn't come in Connacht, and it didn't come in the quarterfinal, and it didn't come in the semi-final, and then all of a sudden in the biggest game, it's like the greatest breakout that we've ever seen, where somebody outruns and beats the hype. That's like one of the, and that's why it's such a great performance, and that's why he's so magnetic from now on. But Killian McDade was the heartbeat of that team that brought a team who were 5th or 6th favourites to within 10 minutes of winning the All-Ireland. Clifford's going to get it, right? But I can make the case that...
I think you can make the case. I do think that if Shane Walsh leads Galway to the All-Ireland title, and you talk about the appeal of a player, you talk about the marketability of a player, I actually think that's a factor here. I think that's why Andy Moran won Footballer of the Year and Paddy Andrews never won an All-Star.
Just because McDade doesn't wear white boots? Come on. I mean, he deserved it as well.
That was a bit of a joke. But I know, I do agree with you, Shane. I do agree that McDade was...
Is Paddy not handsome? Is he not handsome enough for you? Is that what the problem was?
No, it's not that. It's the... Paddy's now coming out of his shell now. He maybe didn't come out of his shell.
He needed to do a few more interviews, basically, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. And I just think that maybe it's very hard to look past a player like that when it gets to Footballer of the Year territory.
All right.
So it's Clifford. What about your young player of the year? We got Lee Gannon, Ethan Doherty, and Jack Lynn.
I
watched Lee Gannon very closely this year. He's my shot.
Ethan Doherty for me does not look like a Gaelic footballer. He literally skimmed.
Every single pick has been from Ulster.
See, he was brilliant in every game I watched, and I saw all of Derry's games, and I just find it hard. He just orchestrated things, and I know Rory Gallagher loves him. Wants everything to go through him. Just does a job. And it's underrated in some ways because you have some of the bigger names around him, like Glass and McGuigan ahead of him as well, doing the business. Yeah. For me, it's Ethan Doherty. I don't know who'll get it. I don't know what the bookies say on that one, but I'd be picking Ethan Doherty.
Yeah, okay, I can go with that as well.
Okay.
Tommy, I don't know who you have to complain to get a ticket for it, but you should go. You should go and take the brickbats. You'd enjoy getting slagged off at the bar for 4 hours by a bunch of lads wrecking your head about why they should have been in your team.
Maybe another year.
Are you otherwise engaged?
Thanks for the shout out, Jerry. If I get a late ticket, who knows? Maybe I can get a tuck at short notice. We'll see.
Tommy, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Thanks, guys. Good work. Bye bye.
That's the Tommy Rooney /footballpod /OTBAM All Stars for the year.
Not bad. I don't know what changes we even made in the end, but I think we made a couple.
Who's your player of the year, lads? That is the question, says Kieran Doherty. It's going to end up being Clifford.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Obviously he left again, like Shane Walsh. He left his best performance for the year for the All-Ireland final, so you can't really argue against that. And he is the best footballer in the country by an absolute mile. So you're kind of nitpicking here about early on there was a little bit of injury, and it looked like after the Sigerson he wasn't fully, but then he didn't need to be.
No.
They understand that you've got to peak for the right moments. Kilkenny was nullified in the quarter-final against Cork, never felt the weight of it, says O'Toole 1905. If James McCarthy ain't on the team, what's the point, says Danny Mack. I mean, I kind of agree at the moment. I think when he retires, everyone's going to be like, oh, he was the player that made the whole thing work. He was the best player on the team. Cluxton changed the game from a goalkeeping perspective, but maybe somebody else would have done that too. Whereas there was nobody else to do what McCarthy was doing.
See, do the All-Star pickers try and get the county spread around there? Maybe you pick a dub or two and you pick
It's very unscientific.
It is unscientific, but I feel like that's what's done traditionally.
It should make a bit more science into it wouldn't be any harm, but ain't going to get that anytime soon. 9:30 this morning, Ireland have beaten England in the T20 World Cup in the cricket. A dark day for English cricket. I think we can all agree. When one of the upstart colonies comes and beats you at your own game, it's a dark day.
The Telegraph sent a push notification on it. Sloppy England embarrassed by Ireland at T20 World Cup. So they're taking it well over there.
Yes. Yeah, well, we're all off to enjoy a few pints of the black stuff and revel in our newfound fame as the overlords of cricket. I mean, can't even beat us at your own game. On a slightly separate but related tangent, one of the Wrexham players has been reprimanded for writing F the Tories on his boots.
Yeah, I don't know if Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds.
They're like, what are these Tories?
Yeah.
What's this about?
They have no idea.
Is this good?
Yeah.
Is this bad? Are we the baddies?
It's good publicity. It's publicity for the Wrexham, as if they need it anymore. But it's one way of you can get anything written on your boots these days. But surely, the political slogans maybe will be stopped at the side of the pitch.
I mean, is it political though to just tell the truth like that? Is it? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's factual. Yeah.
Right, OTB AM brought to you live with Gillette in association with Movember Effortless Shave Magnificent Mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. On OTB Sports Radio for you today, OTB Gold is an Irish football special. This is from back in the day. Shay Gibbon, Niall Quinn, Jason McAteer, interviewed by Kevin Kilban. It is worth your while. 3 o'clock, the latest episode of Koi Gig. Our retro panel at 4 is Gambling and Addiction. OTB Gold is Colin Gooch Cooper at 6, and then the show is live tonight with Joe Malloy, where there'll be plenty on the cricket and loads more besides. Follow OTB across our social channels and subscribe to the OTB Podcast Network for all the best in the latest sports content. After the break, we're back with Republic of Ireland football star Denise O'Sullivan. We chatted yesterday in the back of Ireland's World Cup draw. Tomorrow on the show, more on Ireland's historic win this morning over England down in the Melbourne Cricket Ground, and also our hurling All-Stars predictions, plus plenty more. We'll see you then.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
OTB GAA.
There's Mark and Richie, and I'll never forget, as I'm staring out the camera here, I was standing here and he was coming in at me with the ball, and he threw his famous patented dummy hand pass, because he's a big handballer, with his right hand, and I literally moved into another parish.
Subscribe to the OTB GAA podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. OTB AM with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent mo.
All right.
OTB
Denise O'Sullivan is with us. Denise, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. What part of the world are you in at the moment?
I'm in North Carolina now.
Right, okay. Your season is over, is it? The final is next week, this weekend coming, is it?
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't make the playoffs this year, so we finished our last game on September 30th, so I've been off a while now after international camp.
Right, so it's proper off-season, hanging out, taking advantage of the good weather in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's beautiful here right now, but just training myself and just hanging with the family that I live here and stuff. So it's not too bad. I'm excited to go back to Ireland though and see family soon.
I was going to say, so is that the plan for a while, to take a bit of downtime, or like in the past in the off season sometimes you've gone on loan to Australia? Do you have any plans?
Yeah, this year I didn't want to go anywhere. I wanted to kind of give my body a rest from going and playing again. It's been a tough season with the Courage, so going to Australia wasn't really on the cards this year. And obviously with the World Cup, I want to make sure my body is 100% right going into next year. So I'll be spending a lot of time training myself here. I'll stay around North Carolina probably for most of the off season, go home for Christmas, but I'll be in the gym getting things right myself.
I think you guys missed out on the playoffs by a single point at the end of a 20-game season.
Yeah, we did, unfortunately. It's the first time we haven't made the playoffs here since I've been with the club, so it was hard to take, but we went to San Diego and we needed to win that game, and we drew, and then we needed to depend on another result which didn't go our way in the end. So missed out by a point, but there has been a lot of changes this season. Obviously new coach coming in, a lot of new players. We have a mix of young and experienced, now more young this year. So still the team is still learning together. They're growing, and I think next year we'll be good to go.
What's life like in North Carolina? It sounds like it's pretty good, and it sounds like you like it a lot.
What did you say? Sorry, I missed.
What's life like in North Carolina?
It's great. I love it here, honestly. I love the lifestyle. It's a very, very nice place that I live in. I obviously live with a host family here that I met during the pandemic. I started coaching their daughter, and now I live with them 2.5 years later. So it's really nice, and the weather is really good here, and we're close to the beach, we're close to the mountains, so it's not bad.
Is this the type of thing where you'd like go to America and never come back? Is that part of your future, maybe?
I hope my mom doesn't see this. But yeah, I think it could be part of my future. I really do enjoy it here. So and the league is very competitive, but we'll see. Well,
because it's always one of those things where you come back, tear up trees for Ireland, sometimes player of the match, sometimes scoring loads and loads and loads of goals, sometimes creating the winner, and everyone's like, "Oh, how come you're not playing in the Women's League in England?" And you're like, "Well, because of Carolina, it's much nicer."
Yeah, I get that a lot. A lot of people ask me that, and I think I've settled here, and I still challenge myself every single day that I'm here, and that's why I show up to camp in top shape, because the environment that I'm part of here is top class, very professional. It's one of the toughest training environments in the league. Pre-season is absolutely horrific in a good way. So I get very fit, and throughout the year I also stay fit because I look after my body very well, and that's why I show up to international camp and I'm able to do what I do, because I do take care of myself. So that's why I'm still playing in this league, because I would say it's one of the best in the world.
Yeah, and it's so long established as one of the best leagues in the world that there's like a tradition and rivalries, and it's just accepted that it is there. Whereas the league in England is kind of just getting up to that level where it's expected that the coverage will be at the level that it's at the moment. That's like you've kind of had a front row seat for all that. I do want to ask you. We'll get on to the World Cup obviously, and in a moment. But the bit where you realised that you wanted to be a full-time professional athlete, and that you actually really enjoyed the dedication that is required to get your body right for all those games. When did that penny drop with you? Were you a teenager? Even at that stage, were you thinking, right, I can do this?
Yeah, I was young, honestly. I was probably before 15 years old. I always had a football at my feet. I was always out in the street playing all day long with all the boys. My mum would call me in for dinner 8 p.m. that night, so I would never ever stop until I got home from school. And once I got called into the schools teams, the Irish teams, I just knew that I wanted to be a professional footballer. It was always there. The love for the game was always there. So I knew from a very, very young age that I wanted to be that, and I just put my mind to it from a young age and stuck with it and worked hard, and yeah.
Is the key moment the move to Glasgow, or was it even before that where you were like, okay, actually I could make it all the way to professionalism here?
I think it was definitely, that helped a lot, the move to Glasgow, because before that I always knew I wanted to be a professional footballer, but I think the hurdle that I had to get over was leaving home, obviously coming the youngest of 10 in my family, being around my family all the time. It was very, very hard for me to leave home. So once I got over that hurdle and I'd done it, then I got a taste of what life could be as a professional footballer, and once I got that taste, I knew from there on that I was gonna kick on and play at the highest level eventually.
And so obviously Glasgow is successful. You scored a goal every second game over the course of 3 seasons with them. When does the opportunity to come to the States happen? How does that fall into place?
We actually played the USA with the national team. I think it was back in 2015. I was with Glasgow at the time, and I had an agent then as well, representing me. And I'm pretty sure the Houston Dash coaches or whatever got in touch. They seen me play against the USA. They got in touch with my agent representative, and they just spoke from there on. And going to the USA, when I was there with the national team, I remember saying to Savannah McCarthy, I remember it, on the bus, I said to her, I would love to play in the USA. And she'll tell you that herself. And after that, it was so interesting because everything just started to happen, and they were talking about contracts, and then I was just there. It was mad. So USA was always somewhere I wanted to play, and still here 6 years later.
Well, so that's the bit. So you get somewhere and you don't know if you're going to make a success of it. Obviously, you give yourself every opportunity you possibly can in terms of fitness and psychology and everything. But when do you realise you're good enough to be there, and to actually not just be good enough to be there, but to actually be there and thrive?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy at all. I first went to Houston, and I had to go through a lot of challenges in that second year. First year was all right. I was getting game time, and then going into the second year, a changing coach. Coach didn't really like me, fair enough. And I got a minute playing time every game. Sometimes I wouldn't even come onto the pitch. And I do remember coming back to the national team. We played against Scotland, and I just wasn't myself on the pitch. No confidence. Wasn't fit because I wasn't getting game time. I wasn't sharp. So I did have a chat in camp with Dan Horan, the strength coach, and he said to me, you got to go back and tell him that you need to leave. And I built up the courage to go do that, and after that my career just kicked on when the North Carolina Courage wanted me to come down here.
Because in American sports it's not quite as easy. Trades do happen, but it's not the same. There's not that kind of general acceptance that the player has a lot of power. You can refuse to play, you can ask for a trade, but you very frequently get treated really badly if you do that.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely wasn't easy, and I think that's why I was half afraid to go and tell them. But I did anyway. And the way it works here is, they said yes, you can leave, as long as you don't go to another team in the NWSL. That's what they said. And I was planning to go to Germany at the time, and then I got put out on a waiver list, which happens here in this league. Once you're released, you get put out on a waiver list, and within 24 hours, any team in the league can come in for you. So the next day, the Courage, a few days after, the Courage contacted myself and said, we want you to come down here. So it's not an easy process here, but it definitely worked out in the end for me. Yeah,
so hard in your mouth for those kind of 72 hours while you're waiting to see exactly what happens, and then you're like, yes, Carolina sounds great.
Right, exactly. Yeah, obviously not playing a minute with Houston. You think, there's no team going to come in for me, and that's why I was prepared to go to Germany. But luckily, the Courage did come in the end.
And so when you get there, that's the bit where you start to feel like, first off, they want you because they've claimed you off waivers, and then the environment is obviously something that you've responded to.
Yeah, 100%. And the first few weeks, I was absolutely lost in the environment because it was such a high level compared to Houston, no disrespect. But the level was just so different, the training, the players. So yeah, it definitely took me a while to get used to the environment, and it took me months to get into the starting 11. I would come on and play a few minutes here and there, but I really, really had to work hard once I got here and get myself into the starting 11. And I actually started in the number 10 here, playing for this team, and it wasn't quite working out for me. Obviously, in the number 10, you want to be scoring goals and you want to be assisting, but I guess I was new in the league, and it was hard for me to do it at the time. And I got moved into the number 6, the deeper role, and that seemed to really suit me. And I'm still playing in that position to this day. So it's working out well there. I really, really do like that deeper position and playing in the 6.
That's important, isn't it? Because like the difference just from the ability to use your technical proficiencies, stamina, all that kind of stuff that, and also then deeper lying passing range is hugely important. So did that happen in, like, were there conversations with the coaches saying, listen, I think, or does it like one day in training you're just kind of ignoring the orders and you're like, I'm going to start playing number 6 and see if they notice that I'm not doing what I'm told, but I'm really good at it? How does it work?
Nah, it was definitely conversations with the coaches, with the staff, and they saw me at the time playing in that number 6. So one game I just got thrown in there. I think it was against Seattle, and probably didn't have my best game in the first game playing there. It was quite scary because you're receiving the ball closer to your own goal. So if you mess up, then it can be on you. So I was quite scared and not as confident. But as I played more games, I grew into it. And with this team now, we still play a 4-4-2 box formation. So the possession goes through the 6s all the time. So I get a lot of the ball when I'm playing here. I'm the start of the build-up most of the time, as well as the centre back. So I do get a lot on the ball, and I get to create and break lines in doing that as well. So it's really nice. And then defensively as well, it's a lot of work, but it's what I like to do.
And so while that's all happening, obviously your Ireland career is happening in parallel as well. The journey that the Ireland team has been on, where we're going to an international tournament in the World Cup next year, you came through an underage setup where qualifying for tournaments was actually something that happened a bit, like, and so that's a good thing in that it conditions your expectations when you become senior international. It's like, well, why wouldn't we be qualifying for tournaments? Every time I played for Ireland, we've tried to qualify, and then we did qualify, and then we reached the final, and we perform when we get there. So was it like that when you got into the senior team, or did it take a little while for that kind of attitude to kind of become more manifest amongst you and the rest of your teammates?
Yeah, it definitely took a while. And look, senior international football is completely different. The level it's ridiculous, playing at that level, senior international. But the teams you come up against, and even the qualifying process, it was unbelievable. Like, to get through, it was so difficult to be able to qualify, and to be able to do it and get to a World Cup it's phenomenal. I'm still in disbelief that we actually made it, to the World Cup. But it's always hard at senior international football. The qualifying process is really difficult to do, to get through. And you see that the last few years, the teams that we get in our groups are like Sweden, Germany, and then second ranked teams as well. Very, very difficult teams. So it's completely different to underage. And now that we're actually going to a World Cup, I can't even put into words. I'm absolutely buzzing.
Is there, so outside the camp, we look back on the friendly with Australia as this kind of very significant turning point. It's only a friendly, sure, whatever, but actually Australia very highly ranked, coming off a really great run, and it's a topsy-turvy game where there's loads of goals scored. It's kind of a little bit out of character. It wasn't just a 1-0.
Right.
Was that the shot in the arm that the team needed in terms of confidence, or had you kind of felt like actually the progress was being made anyway?
Yeah, I felt like the progress was being made anyway. Before that, I think this team has been growing the past 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, and to play against Australia at home and get that result, it definitely did give us more confidence. We knew we could do something special from there on, for sure. Australia being, I think they're ranked 13th in the world. Very, very good team. One of the best players, one of the best strikers in the world they have in Sam Kerr. So we know what kind of team they are. They're very, very good. And obviously playing them in the first game in their host nation, I'm sure they'll have a huge, huge crowd behind them. Will be difficult, but it's really exciting. I can't wait.
It is kind of ironic that they were important on the staging post for this team to get the self-confidence to start expressing itself the way they have over the course of the competition, and then lo and behold, we're out first in the first game of the World Cup. It's kind of class. Like, you want the opening ceremony, you want the opening game. it's like every game in the World Cup is going to be big, right? Blah, blah, blah. But the first game and the final, they're the two biggest games. Like, we all know this.
Right. Yeah. When I saw the draw, I was like, Australia, that is phenomenal. I was buzzing when I seen that, because they're the games you want to be part of. They're the occasions you want to be part of. Yeah, it's going to be very, very, very exciting. But obviously it's a tough group, as you said. There's no easy games in the World Cup. So whoever we got, I would have been happy with, because we're going, and we're not just going there to compete. We're going there to do something special. And I think this team can really do something special now. We're really growing, and we've come together as a really good team. So yeah, this next summer is going to be exciting.
Looking back on the qualifying campaign, are there any other turning points where you think, actually, that's really important for us as a group, as a team? Were there moments that you think back to and go, if that hadn't happened, it might not have galvanised us the way we were, or we might not have believed in ourselves the way we had to at the end?
I mean, a lot of the results in the qualifying campaign, I think the Sweden game was absolutely huge. I think getting that point away from home was, I mean, if we didn't do that, I think we may not be in this position today, But yeah, that was a turning point for us over there. I think we really came together as a team. Very, very tough game. We were sitting atop our own box for almost 90 minutes, and they're the type of games that we can, we love to do that. Our defence is absolutely phenomenal, and they were excellent in that game. And we can sit deep, we can stay compact, and we can work very, very hard. That's a really good quality that the team has. So I think that Sweden game, getting that point there was absolutely huge for us.
I wonder how much you feel about the transformation in the level of excitement that the team generates amongst the public. We had Emma Byrne on commentary first that night, and she was obviously down pitch side at the end, and Nathan was doing all the interviews, but so many people were coming over, and the conversation automatically leaned back towards Liberty Hall and the stand that her and her teammates had to take to transform women's football, the tracksuits being taken back off them, changing the airports, to the bit where it's the billboards and it's ads on TV and it's full coverage of everything, and you're going to a World Cup. It's like, it's an incredible short period of time between then and now.
I know, it's looking back at it, it's absolutely phenomenal. And going back to that day in Liberty Hall, those girls, the Emma Byrnes, the Yvonne Tracy's, Anya Gormans, a lot more as well, they really changed women's football for us. They stood up for us that day, and they're a huge part of the reason why we're going to a World Cup now. But yeah, looking at it now, the amount of coverage we have, the excitement that after that Scotland game, the excitement around Ireland was phenomenal. I've never got so many messages in my life coming into my phone from people that I actually had no idea that even liked women's football. Just seeing that, it's phenomenal. It's emotional, honestly, because the change is it's brilliant, and it's really good to see. And I think we'll have such huge support going to the World Cup next year, which is very exciting. You
obviously know football in Australia really well from your time down there. That's good that you've been down there and there's no mystery around it. Like, you've played against these. It's really good that we did play them in that friendly and that we did beat them as well. So it's not like, oh, it's Australia. They're, they could easily spank us. It's like, well, I mean, maybe if things go really badly, but we've just beaten them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can take confidence from that. But look, I think, how long ago was that game now? I think they were missing quite a few players as well in that game, starting 11 players. So I think they'll be a different team. I think they will be well prepared coming into this World Cup. They're playing a World Cup at home. They're going to be the most prepared they'll ever be in their life. So I think it will be a different game. I think it's going to be a lot more challenging than the game we played in Tallaght Stadium. But for us, we'll also be more prepared as well than that game that we played against Australia. So I think it's going to be a good battle, and they are really an excellent team. So it's going to be tough, but it's a game that you want to be part of,
When the ball's at your feet, you realise now that you're etched forever in Irish football history because of the through ball for the most important goal that's ever been scored in women's football history. So when the ball's at your feet, did you know the run was going to be so good from Amber Barrett? Were you like, I've got one chance to hit this here, hit it?
I did. We actually kind of made eye contact, me and Amber, when that actually happened. Obviously, it was a very composed header from Nia Fahy, and I had a lot of space in the middle of the pitch, so I turned and me and Amber kind of glanced at each other. I know it was from far away, but I knew exactly what she was going to do. And I mean, what made the goal was her first touch. It was a fantastic run, but her first touch if she didn't have that first touch, I don't think she would have scored that goal. So big credit to Amber for a phenomenal first touch. She needs to do that more often.
And the toe poke into the corner is just a thing of beauty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a great finish. That toe poke, she needed to do that. And honestly, the ball, when I was looking, I had my hands on my head. I was like, is this going to go in? It took forever to go into the back of the net, honestly. But when it happened, it was absolutely unbelievable, and it was very fitting for her to score that goal on the night as well. I was very proud of her and really happy. Yeah, it was a tough day.
I don't know if you've had a chance to see her interview on TV afterwards, but it's absolutely phenomenal. Like it's also going down in the annals of history as like one of the great post-match Irish sports interviews ever. Like for her to be able to channel all that, explain how the goal was scored, and still have time for a joke at the end while perfectly capturing the somber mood was just sensational.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and for her in such a big moment to score a goal that's potentially going to bring the team to the World Cup, to then go over and be just really calm and dedicate that goal to the people who were lost in that tragedy. It was phenomenal, and yeah, we were all very proud of her, because she did have a tough few days, and for us to see her do that it was really good.
This team is obviously in a cycle now where, fingers crossed, we do well at the World Cup, and fingers crossed that improves our seeding for the next draw for the Euros, and then hopefully it's this kind of nice rolling ball of momentum that the team can get. That's brilliant for football generally, and for women's football. From a personal level, we've talked about your medium-term future, certainly in America. Is there a long-term future in football for you? Do you want to be a coach? Is that something that you're interested in? Because it sounds like it's been your life up to this point, and there are growing numbers of opportunities for high-profile people with multitude experience, background. You know what football's like in Australia, you know what it's like in America, you know what it's like in Ireland, you know what it's like in Scotland. Like, it's a brilliant CV you've put together kind of almost accidentally in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely something I want to stay in sports for sure. I'm in the process of doing my B license, so we'll see about coaching, but I have another huge interest in media as well, working in media. So hopefully in the next few years I can get the ball rolling on that and get some experience and see where it goes. But I do definitely want to stay in the sport. It's growing now. Women's football is absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, it's something I would love to do.
Well, listen, enjoy the downtime, however downtime is. I presume it's a lot of, is it kind of boring training when there's no matches?
No, I love, in the off season, I love going into the gym, just to work on myself, things that I need to work on. I think the last part of the season there, it was game after game after game. I think we had eight or nine games in 3.5 weeks. So I couldn't really get myself in the gym. I couldn't really keep my strength up. So now that I have no games, it's something I can really focus on, just keeping strong and keeping, just injury prevention stuff. So that's what I'm focusing on right now for the next few months, which is, it's really nice. I love doing it.
OTB AM with Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent modes.
OTB Sports in your pocket.